Welcome, everybody. The Bradenton Community Redevelopment Agency meeting, October 26th. It is 2:02 p.m. Meeting is called to order. Citizens' comments not on the agenda. And I have Katerin Farah from TEDx Bradenton for an update.
Hello.
Hi.
Short people problems. And I am here with Evelyn Almodovar. Hello, good afternoon, welcome, thank you for having us. My name is Catherine Ferrer. Again, this is Evelyn Almodovar. We are the co-organizers of TEDx Bradenton, and we signed up today for public comment because we wanted to take an opportunity to give a great big thank you to the City of Bradenton CRA for helping launch TED Talks in our community. So it's a quick update where we wanted to share 3 things, and of course we'll also be following up with staff for the annual report. This is so weird because I don't know where to look. So, anyways, so the 3 things we want to share are, number 1, that the initial videos that have been approved are now live. They're out there on the internet. You can watch them. The second thing we want to share is a little bit of the participant feedback. And the third thing we want to share is to stay tuned for 2023 because we want to make this an annual thing. So Evelyn, do you want to talk a little bit about the videos?
Yeah, so we went through the editing process and they all came out really nice, good audio, good lighting, submitted them to TED. Out of the 14, there's 11 there now. That have already been posted. One of them actually has like 2,500 views already. So 2,500 people know about Bradenton. And there's 3 of them that are still under additional review. But yeah, they're live. If you just go and type in TEDx Bradenton and the name of one of the person, or if you go on our website and you click on the person, then it'll hyperlink onto the video and you can see it.
Yeah, and Evelyn alluded to this. These videos live on in a great way, and they are discovered by people who are either interested in the topic or even searching our community online. They, of course, exist on a variety of platforms on social media, newsletters, blogcasts, etc., that TEDx and TED share. And I want to take just a quick example of the YouTube channel. So there is a main channel for TED, which is their annual conference they do in Vancouver. And on YouTube, they have a separate channel for the TEDx events, meaning all of us little global people around the world hosting our local version of their big conference. And the TEDx channel, where our videos are hosted, have 35 million subscribers. And that has grown consistently since launching in 2009. With a total of more than 6 billion views. And what's curious about that is that the TEDx YouTube channel, which is where our videos are, and then we have our own TEDx Bradenton YouTube channel, but that TEDx channel that is global has almost 5 times the number of subscribers than the TED channel. So it really does have the potential to reach a wide audience. So that was the first thing. The videos are now live, so stay tuned for those. They'll be coming out. The second thing is participant feedback. So after each TEDx event, they require the organizers to send out a follow-up survey that they actually send out. So it's not anything that we manage or see into how it works. It's something they do to our participants to see how we did. And happy to report that from the respondents, our event achieved a 10 out of 10, meaning that everyone who was asked, like on a scale of 1 to 10, would you recommend this event? Everyone said 10, and that was really a pleasant surprise. So a few of the comments they shared, did you want to read?
Yeah. The first one, yes. So one of the comments was, TEDx Bradenton did a good job highlighting the brilliance that is here in the local area. Another one was, this was an outstanding event that was highly relevant. The organization was great and ensured a seamless experience. The interdisciplinary speakers did an excellent job, and the day followed a logical structure that allowed easily follow for various topics. I'm looking forward to the next TEDx Bradenton. The other one is TEDx Bradenton. TEDx Bradenton showcased the best of what is possible in Bradenton. TEDx offered initiative ideas and actions to help the community. And the last one is an experience that is truly breathtaking at times and ultimately life-changing.
And we didn't pay those people to write.
No, we did not.
Like I said, we were not in control at all of that evaluation process. That was something that the TED, headquarters people, so to speak, that's what they're in charge of. So we covered the first two, that the videos are live, that we've gotten some great feedback from that survey. And then, of course, the third thing, stay tuned for 2023, because we really do want to bring this back. Your initial investment leveraged so many others to participate, so we're really looking forward to being able to continue this momentum. We wanted to leave you with a quote from former President Ronald Reagan, who said, "The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He, or she, is the one that gets the people to do the greatest things." So thank you all for being leaders in this adventure of TEDx Bradenton.
Great timing.
Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
Yeah. Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I think questions or comments?
Or just, yeah, I just want to thank you guys. I'm so sad I couldn't be here. I had a conflict that weekend, but I just think this is exactly what we need to be, sending out that message that we're here for. I think this is probably a younger group than we're used to, and so awesome job. It was just exciting.
And, I guess you guys didn't know, Katerina told me, you guys didn't know, this is all volunteers, nobody actually got paid for it. So it was great to see the community, everybody invest in doing it.
Awesome. Thank you.
We're looking forward to it, 23. 2020.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other citizens' comments? Seeing none, we move down to the consent agenda. Two items. I'll need a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
move to approve consent agenda A and B.
I'd like to remove consent agenda item B.
B?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Amend your,
Is that
Approve
is that approved?
consent agenda A.
and you second that? Okay.
Yeah, second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Mr. Sanders?
Katerina, if you would please explain this all again to us, because we may have some new information that we might be wanting to be a little cautious of since our conference recently. So kind of, if you would, just for purposes of people that may not have heard this before, we started this, just go from the beginning and then where we are today. Thank you.
On May 25th, Independent Jones, Morgan Bates Angel came forward and requested sponsorship / assistance participation from the Bradenton CRA to assist to bring back the Main Street Live event. It's a series of 6 events, musical events in the downtown core. And during that meeting, there was a lot of discussion back and forth. The original request was for $6,000 and the profit to be split. Then there was discussion about the entertainment to be, higher quality. So in order to do that, we wanted to up the amount to $10,000. And then the actual motion, though, reflected only for up to $6,000. So about a month ago or so, Independent Jones came forward during our September special meeting, and because it was a special meeting and not on the agenda, we couldn't vote on it. So she's here before today because her understanding, and I believe, including myself, and that's why we heard the audio 3-4 times, because that it was whether it's 10 or 6. So it makes a big difference to a small business owner, $4,000 per event difference. So since during that discussion in September, the board the comments were that yes, we remember the 10,000. So we were bringing it back just to approve the same amount that we thought had been approved. And Morgan is here to also talk about what type of marketing she has done. I have spoken with her about her expenses. So she's also here to talk a little bit about what outreach she has done and what to expect. So I know you also mentioned the FRA conference, and that was going to be on the report from Mr. Mignon and Ms. Farmer a little bit later on the agenda. But one of the things that I understand was told at the FRA conference was to be careful with events, and but we can still do events as long as we show a clear benefit to the CRA. And, for example, having a booth there and doing a survey or asking people to join our distribution list, giving out our materials. So as long as we were able to defend that, then it's okay to sponsor events. So that's why you'll see we plan to have a booth at every of the 6 events. We're going to have surveys there, distribution, people if they want to join the CRA distribution list so we can get the word out about the good work we're doing. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Okay, and I have, is she in here, you
Yes.
said? If she wants to make a presentation, I think that's great. And then I'll have comments as to what my understanding of the new FRA conference suggestions or rules or whatever they go.
The only thing, if I could, I actually thought we had already approved the 10,000. I don't remember who made the motion, but I remember
I
the
did too.
discussion, and
I
I
did
was
too.
very surprised when we weren't told that it was 6. So to me, I can see why they've been, doing what they're doing, and I already thought we did it, so.
I agree.
I think we all feel that
Right.
happened. It's
That's not the question. For me, it's not anyway. So.
So, hi, I'm Morgan.
Hi.
So yeah, I'm here to just share the marketing that we've done and everything that we put in so far so that you feel good about your investment. And from that, obviously we have marketing collateral. So we've distributed giant posters to all the businesses downtown along with 8.5 by 11s. Online, we've done social media. We've had over 30 posts. We're doing countdowns now all week long. From email marketing, we've done 1 e-blast to a database so far, and we're working on a next. As far as press releases, we've sent out 3 that have actually gotten a decent amount of coverage. We were covered in the Bradenton Herald, Bradenton Magazine, Patch, Sarasota Herald, Tampa Bay Newswire, and Discover Bradenton. And from there, actually, we did get a sponsorship from Bradenton Magazine. So we do have those. We have listed it on event calendars, over 20 that I can share, but I won't bore you with that. And yeah, so we're heavily online. We've taken over the old Main Street Merchants Facebook page. It is now Main Street Live. We have about 3,000 on there, but it was dormant, so we're trying to reactivate it. We have about 300 that we've done so far interested in the event page. We haven't done a boost on the page, but we're doing a paid sponsored ad right now that's running. That was 300, and so far that reach is around like 50,000. And this reach covers everywhere 30 miles we have from downtown Bradenton. So it includes Parrish, Palmetto, Ellington, the Island, Lakewood Ranch, Sarasota, all the way down to Venice in that area. But we're being strategic in our targeting. So within those parameters, we are being specific of interests, ages, all things like that. But we've definitely gotten the word out. And if you go downtown, the buzz is definitely going. And this week we did put out street signs that say Main Street Live this week. It takes you to a QR code, and everywhere that our marketing is, the CRA's logo is right there prominently with us. So that's what we covered for marketing. From the last meeting, we did follow up with Barry again, and he did call us back. So we have a meeting with him that is next week, Monday. He did let us know he's been very busy, as are we, so we're all in agreement. Monday's great. We had a meeting since then with the old Main Street Merchants, that the mayor was at, and we all got on the same page, but unfortunately, there was only about 3 businesses represented at that meeting. It's extremely hard to get these business owners into a meeting place to agree on a time. So what we're putting out is out there for them to get back to us at this point if they want to be involved. But we've extended a free booth to every merchant on the street who wants one. We'd clear out their space in front. So we're definitely trying to be as agreeable and neighborly and involving as possible. We have gotten Art Center Manatee involved. The Friendly City Flea is a group. They're going to be involved. So yeah, that's what we've done for outreach. And then on top of it, just to add is that the family-friendly aspects that we add is we are bringing a hay maze. We have balloon twisters. We've got some face painters. We've what else? We've got a holiday candle making vendor that's going to be there, and a DJ on that side. So between 4th and 3rd will be heavily families. We've got giant 8-foot photo walls for families to take photos, which if you have kids, that can draw you down. And that day as well, we'll have Angel Media House shooting all professional photo and video. So after the event, not only can we share it with you, we can share it with the public as well as potential sponsors. So we're really trying to make this first one a bang so that we can share it and really, benefit from it after the effect. Yeah, and that's kind of where we're at, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I have a budget in front of me if you have any questions there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember you coming in and I thought it was 10,000 too, so anyway. So you're a private entity, and you're doing this allegedly or not allegedly, but for Main Street, but you don't seem to get a lot of participation. That's a problem I'm having, that who we're doing it for. Then I take the position we're doing it for the public, because just.
Well, I can tell you, I'm sure not doing it for my pocket. So we're definitely doing it for the public. But I also think that right now, what we've seen as what we do is we make these things happen. And there's a lot of conversations of wanting to make these things happen, and groups just don't have it because it costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time. And that's what we do day in and day out. Right. And so while I do feel like this is good for our business, we're doing it for the city.
How many events are there? I think you've already published a list. There's 10? Six events. So tell me a little bit about what you went from what you call mediocre entertainment to a higher level. How did you, and have you already contracted that?
Yep.
And then who made the decision of what the higher level was, or was that done by an outside entertainment group, or?
So we do it.
Direct, I think I asked you that before. I think you just direct contacted the manager of these.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the other side of our business that we do. We're talent buyers. So we buy talent and showcase them for clients. So we did procure this ourselves. When we say elevating the talent, instead of booking a great Sarasota band that plays all around all week long and you can go see them, we're bringing in talent from outside this area to this area. So we're shedding light into artists.
You're trying to draw people from other areas.
Yep.
Yeah, because they may have a following out of
And they've
St.
got
Peter.
better marketing, they've got all those pieces that we're really trying to align with.
Right, that's
So, for example, one of our groups, Honey Hounds out of Jacksonville, they're nationally touring, they're huge, and they're up-and-coming young blues artists. And so we're bringing them down, but, it's not 1,500, it's like 3,500. And instead of it being no riders, we're providing a small list of things that they want, that they need as comforts, to get them here. So it all costs.
That's great. I'm obviously for that. I mean, I've done that, a lot in my past with booking major acts for a lot of events, and I believe in that. The problem we have, or the perception is, and we have a couple of other experts in the room that went to the CRA meeting, convention, a couple of days last week, I believe it was, and the new ideology on this is that we should not be using taxpayer funds, that's what this is, TIF money, the primary purpose of TIF money is to reduce slum and blight. Now, it doesn't say you can't have a party afterwards or a party before to, encourage the public to come out and do things and so forth. I don't see any event that this is tied to. Unless somebody would like to opine on that, I think it's, but I love it. But I don't want us to get in any kind of a trouble by, doing this. So I would support this 100% this year. Next year might be a different story, because I think that there's some congressmen just itching at their foot to get us in trouble for something like that, and so we could, I understand. I just want you to know this up front, that, I'm for this. I'd be for it every year, but I don't want us to lose funding on our TIF money just because they said we're having a bunch of parties in Bradenton, and somebody says told on us and said that it has no connection to TIF money, or to slum and blight. So I want that out there and everybody to understand that. And if anybody disagrees with me, you can speak up. I think the
Okay.
the executive director, well, disagrees with me with facts that come from legislation, not because of your personal opinion. Like I said, I'd do it every year.
I haven't heard, is that coming from the legislature or the attorney general?
It's coming from the Florida Redevelopment Organization, which
Yeah.
is oversighted by our state Congress, and it's pretty. State legislature. And they're pretty serious about it. This came up, matter of fact, this came up, I think in 2019, when I was there, and then COVID came, and in 2019, I think they changed some of the rules. And it just didn't stick, but there was a forum on this I think we was in Tampa at the time, and basically it was knock it off, quit doing this, quit having festivals, parties, regattas, anything. And because they have nothing to do, and the taxpayers are mad that we're doing that. For example, we used to fund the regatta out of the CRA, and then we moved it over to the other side. But that's nothing to do with you. But
I think we should hear from the attorney about the authority. I mean, does the FRA have authority over this with us?
No, the FRA doesn't have any binding legal authority, and the law in this area has not changed in a long time, actually. There was an attorney general opinion on this subject that came out maybe 10 years ago or so. And, year by year, you do see some different approaches taken by the Auditor General, when they are looking at CRAs and things like that. But in general, no, the law has not changed. There's been no new cases in this area. It's a lot of kind of speculation about where things may be headed or how things might be viewed in an audit.
If I might help out here for a little bit. So the FRA is like the League of Cities. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, it's an organization that runs, it's just the organization that helps oversee that, but they don't have any legislative authorities. They do have lobbyists. Like the Florida League of Cities is a well-oiled Tallahassee machine, but the FRA would be someone that they would just be looking around for that stuff, but they're not, it's not.
That's my understanding, and I'm not saying that they aren't valuable and that there might not be some things to look at. I'm just saying, just because they say they don't like them doesn't mean that that's not what's right for us. I think we need to go with our specific thing, and if it fits within, I think there's a great argument. It's about creating a sense of place. It's about raising the whole, anyhow. I think we've gotten off track. I just said, and I do have some things specific to this, but
when I'm finished, you can. All right, so I got wrong information is what I'm being told.
No, the FRA, you're right where, when we go up, so when I lobby with the League of Cities, they have lobbyists out there working. They know the buzz. They know what's being said in the hallways. And basically, they're relaying to you what they've been hearing about what is going to happen in the next session. But it's all speculation of what's going to happen in the next one. And so that does, and the FRA is the same way. So I know that these.
Well, I think it's more than speculation, isn't it? Because they've come, there's been legislators and Attorney General opinions that's come into the conference that spoke and say they're watching this, is that we're not supposed to, that they were advising the conference to red flag this.
To exercise extreme caution. And I think with events, that has been the issue with events all the way along, is that it can be thin ice, but it's still legal. But you have to follow every, and it may change next year in the spring. So
Well,
what's before us is acceptable.
I was at the conference, and so were two other people, and there was a lawyer there that I thought she had given a presentation here, or one of her counterparts did about this. As I wasn't here. Is that is that true? Okay, we weren't. Three of us weren't here, so I didn't hear it. And then they gave it again over at the conference. And yeah, there's differences of opinions. Everybody's got opinion, but their advice, and she's a lawyer, was to, you know, I guess I'm a little confused. We're not supposed to listen to these professionals' opinions?
I'd like, since I wasn't there, I cannot talk about it, but Mr. Mignon was there, so we were gonna wait about this item under a little bit lair, but if.
Well, okay, we can
but
do
it's
it
up to
later.
you.
It doesn't really have anything to do with that. I was just being precautionary that, you know, if FRA is a front for no important information, why do we attend? Because that's not
what I said.
Well, it would seem that there's different messages coming out of there that I didn't hear it that way, so I'd like to know, because I'm not gonna attend anymore if what they're telling us is not the truth.
No, I did not. I actually put them up with the League of Cities, which I hold to a very high regard. I compared it to that, for that. So I'm just saying that.
Well,
And I
okay.
wasn't at the conference, Bill, and you might, you know.
I wasn't at all the conference, because another issue, but, okay. That's good. I'm for this. What this is, a backroom talk or something else that doesn't have anything to do with you. I'm just saying that we've been cautioned, whether it's good
I hear you.
or not. It's like, I don't know.
Okay.
You know, I'll let somebody else figure it out and then tell me.
Well,
I don't want somebody to surprise me, and I don't want somebody to surprise you, okay? Well, what about rain events? What if it poured down rain? Do you got any place that you can take this? And then you've already paid for the entertainment, because they want that check written out.
Yeah, but most bands that we work with, given the scale that we do and we already communicate there is no rain date, most will agree to give us another date, and we want to work with these bands, so we'll just,
So it's a
Safe.
handshake type thing, yeah.
yeah. And we'll cancel expenses. Most things you pay for after the event, so we'll just cancel.
That's all I have. I'll make a motion to approve
Oh,
item B.
I had some,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I had some questions. Let's see. I was glad to hear some comments, but one of the places that I really would like to focus some of the marketing is outside of Bradenton, because I do think you're doing a great job. The buzz is going to be out there, everything that's local, but I think part of bumping this all up was to try to get more than just the same old and bring other people. I think the band thing will probably help a lot with that. So I'm glad to hear about that. And anything more on that would be great. And then also food trucks. Are you bringing in some different new
Yep.
upscale food trucks?
For the first one, we've got 4 food trucks coming in: Rolling Crab, Mouthhole Barbecue, Nas Philly, and Jack's Ohana out of Tampa. And then for spread out throughout season, we'll definitely be building it up. But this was one that even for the vendors, you know, it's a first time thing for a lot of them. So we're trying to, you know, reasonably safe. So we booked 4. But we have about 4 or 5, 6 other food tents that will be there, food and drink.
good.
Yes. So we're focusing on food and drink.
Well, hopefully we can pull the downtown merchants in after, if the first one's successful, because I do think they should be at the table and they should want to be there.
Yep.
Because I do think that they do have a big benefit on it. And I was also very glad to hear that you were allowing those people to have space out in front of them, because I've heard, not for this, but other stuff that they weren't. So I'm glad to hear that. So I am excited, and I'll be there.
Thank you. Thank you. We're very excited.
Pam, did you have something you want to say? Okay. So, Bill, you want to make the motion? Sir?
Everybody done? Yeah. Make a motion to approve item B on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Presentation, freebie local circulator.
This is perfect.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. You guys can hear me good? I'm Jason Spiegel. I'm one of the co-founders and managing partners here at Freebie. Very excited to be here today. to be able to introduce to you guys this very innovative, but most importantly, proven first and last mile transportation solution that we believe would be a game changer here for the city of Bradenton. So just a quick introduction to Freebie. We provide a free, on-demand, door-to-door, 100% electric transportation service. Our whole goal is to provide that first and last mile connectivity to help get cars off the road and really help make communities a place where you can come live, work, and play and not need to own a personal vehicle. On top of being a transit solution, Freebie is also a very powerful economic development tool because we have the ability to drive door-to-door traffic to the local businesses and really just promote the entire community. The service we provide is fully customizable. It's really aimed at meeting the goals and objectives that each of our municipal partners are looking to achieve. Every area that we operate today is completely different from the next, but the system's very adaptable in order to meet each city's unique needs. And again, one of the best parts about the service, it is 100% electric. So just quick overview of Freebie. We launched over 10 years ago here in South Florida, down in Miami-Dade County. And right now, we are providing service for over 25 communities. And actually, we operate over 150 vehicles. So we operate in all different types of communities, from suburban communities to downtown corridors, beach towns, islands, you name it, we're operating there. And out of the 25 different pilot programs that we've launched to date, every single one has continued past the pilot phase, really for all the value that these programs provide outside of moving somebody from point A to point B. We've been recognized and awarded for many things throughout our existence. Keys to the City of Miami, Keys to Miami-Dade County. We were the Complete Street Champion nominees over there in Miami-Dade County. We were also the Clean Energy Transportation Partner of Super Bowl 2020 when it was down there in Miami. We provided them a great service that moved everybody around the city to all the different events, to all the different games, and it was just a really, really great experience there. But how does Freebie work? If you've ever used Uber or you've ever used Yelp, Freebie is a combination of Uber meets Yelp, where you're able to request rides on demand with the push of a button, but you also have access to everything and anything locally within the area there. So this is the Ride Freebie mobile app. So when you open up the app here within Bradenton, you would only be immersed in all the local businesses, all the local messaging. You'd be able to promote the events that you guys were just speaking about, promote the Blues Festival. You could promote specific businesses on here. We have a section where all these local businesses, they get free advertising on our app, and the whole goal is to help drive traffic to their doorstep. They can offer these exclusive deals and discounts, really to help incentivize people to come visit them. But the app is very customizable. Really, it's anything that you guys want to put on there, any of the messaging, you can be changed daily, it can be changed weekly, it can be changed monthly, it can be changed multiple times a day, but really it's a community service and it really incorporates everything the community has to offer there. And then when somebody wants to go somewhere, they click a button, an electric vehicle picks them up and takes them right to that local business. So it's been a very, very successful service so far. When it comes to how it operates, so we geofence a certain portion of the community. And when I say geofence, this is where people can request rides to and from within that area. We have some communities that geofence the entire municipal boundary. We have others that focus on their downtown pockets, on their transit corridors. We have other communities like Delray Beach and Fort Pierce will be coming online. That's just their CRA districts. But again, it all really goes back to all the goals and objectives that each of the cities are looking to accomplish there. But this is a good example of how some of the geofences operate. And one good example is actually Delray Beach. So that service is funded through the CRA there. And we actually have two zones. So there's an inner zone and an outer zone. The inner zone is the CRA district. The outer zone is most of the residential district. And the whole goal of the program is you have to either start your ride or end your ride within the CRA district in order to be eligible. So the whole goal is to get people out of their homes and spending money locally within the district there. But again, very customizable and can be really just tweaked to the way that you guys want it to work there. How to use the app, it's very simple. You hit the request a ride button right on the bottom there. It drops the pin right where you're at. And then you can either enter the address to where you're going, you can enter the name of the business, or you can explore, again, everything local here in Bradenton, all the restaurants, the bars, the arts and entertainment, everything at their fingertips. You let us know how many passengers you're with, if you need ADA accommodations, if you need booster seats, we carry those in every one of the vehicles. And then you hit confirm ride. You're then connected with the driver in real time. You can see that driver on a map. You have an ETA of when that driver's going to pick you up. So instead of having to walk outside to a bus stop and sit in the hot sun or rain, you're sitting inside your home, you're sitting inside the office, at the restaurant, waiting for that vehicle to come pick you up there. So again, it's a it's a door-to-door service. So what are the benefits of a program like Freebie? Really, the biggest benefit of Freebie is this really helps transform the community into a place where you can come live here, you can come work here, come hang out here, and you have easy connectivity, easy maneuverability to get to where you need to go without having a personal vehicle there. It helps minimize single occupancy vehicles, gets cars off the road, reduces that traffic congestion, frees up that limited parking availability, acts as a feeder system to and from mass transit, so it can connect to and from the MCAT, the bus lines here, the transit corridors. The drivers of our service are much more than just a transit driver. We consider them community ambassadors, so they're fully knowledgeable in everything happening within the city, all the public service announcements, and they're pushing these out to all the different residents. Economic development, as I keep mentioning, is a very big part of our program here. And then sustainability. I mean, every vehicle that we operate is 100% electric, and we're all about reducing our carbon footprint within every city that we operate. And again, one of the biggest benefits is that first and last mile connectivity. So with the MCAT, that is really moving workers and people in and out of the community here almost every single day. People would be able to get into that transit stop and then be able to request a freebie to get to their final destination. So it's a very, very important tool to get people to and from where they need to go, and it will help complement the existing transit system that's already here. One question that we always get is, who rides freebie? And the great thing that we've seen over the last 10 years that all of our data shows us is that everybody rides freebie. This is the most equitable form of any form of public transportation that's out there, and you have every age demographic, every socio demographic of people using the service at different times of the day, different times of the night for all different types of means. So you have your residents, you have visitors, you have your workers using it, families that are taking it, after work. You have commuters connecting to and from transit. In a lot of our communities, we take kids to and from school. Again, the service is for everybody. We're pet friendly, we're wheelchair accessible, and it's a service that really works, and it works very, very well. And one thing that we really kind of like to focus on is our drivers, because they're such an important part of our program here. They really become the face of the community, almost like a mobile concierge, a rolling information desk on wheels, again, promoting all the local events, the dining, shopping, everything and anything to do here in Bradenton. They also double over as Neighborhood Watch, so they're a second set of eyes and ears on the street. We have a direct line to the police. If we ever see something, we say something. And our ambassadors are held to very high standards. They do really help strengthen the bond between the community and its residents here. Also with me, I have John Janus here. He's our Director of Economic Development, and I just want him to kind of touch a little bit on the economic development side, because it is such an important part of our program, and it's really what's made Freebie so successful within all the communities that we operate. Communities look at the service as, hey, it's not just a cost, we're actually getting a return on the value of the service because of all the different things that we really bring to the community here. So I'll let John talk a little bit about those.
Hello, as my colleague introduced me, I'm John Janis, I'm the Director of Economic Development. My colleague mentioned that everyone rides Freebie. So Freebie, we give rides, we're an amazing transit service, and that's very two-dimensional, but this is where we kind of add a third dimension to everyone who rides Freebie. Like every individual person, what role does that person play in the economy? What role does that person play in the community? So there could be very popular restaurants that have empty tables because there's nowhere to park. Well, if the locals don't have to take a parking spot and they can ride Freebie there, that frees up the parking spots for people that are coming in from outside of Bradenton, people that you'd like to attract here. There's the people that like to go out and wine and dine that get into the danger zone and may not want to drive home. Imagine the impact that we have on the community if we can prevent, one of those accidents from happening. There's people that are, on their way up, upwardly mobile people with minimum wage jobs that don't have transportation, so they have to walk to work, which greatly limits them where they can work at. But if we can give them a ride 1, 2, 3 miles, they now have 10 times as many options. That benefits that individual as well as that benefits the employers to cast a wider net when looking for the best talent. Could be the senior citizens who no longer feel comfortable getting out of their homes. Yes, Uber and Lyft exist, but you never know who's driving the vehicle. With Freebie, our drivers are full-time employees. We hire locally, they become faces and friends, and we help get those people out of their houses into the community to engage. So really, when the economy wins, everybody wins, and we want this program to be, economically sustainable as well as environmentally sustainable. So we really add that bring it to life kind of aspect to the service that we provide to the community.
Great.
Oh, and this is a good example.
So to go the extra mile with the businesses, we can talk about economic development, but this is the Yelp aspect that my colleague mentioned earlier. So we do a community outreach to the businesses, and we offer the businesses a free profile on the Freebie app. So you can see here that the businesses, we have categories for restaurants, arts and entertainment, points of interest, and then it goes to a profile, and then there's a one-click option to request that as your destination. So it's not just about giving someone a ride, it's about point A, point B, and making sure that the point B is somewhere that benefits Bradenton economically and in community development.
Beautiful.
And then John and his team, we have a whole entire economic development team. They come out here, they meet with all the local businesses. A lot of them don't have the resources where they don't have pictures, they don't have a lot of the things that some of these bigger companies do. So we help them out with that. We take pictures for them, we create their profiles, help them get these deals, and really just help drive traffic to these local businesses here. It's a big part of our program. But when looking at implementing a new type of program, we always work with our municipalities to launch a one-year, low-risk, low-cost pilot project. That 1 year, you're going to collect so much data, you're going to collect so much feedback, you can do so much surveying to say, hey, this is working or this is not as working. And like I mentioned before, we've launched this in 25 different communities. A lot of them are very similar here to Bradenton, and every single one has grown, has added vehicles, has added hours, because they do feel and see the value of a program like this. But again, it can work in two different ways with regards to the technology. You could geofence, again, just the CRA district, and the vehicles will operate within just the CRA district, or just like you see on the screen here, it could be a zone within a zone where you have to either start your ride or end your ride within the CRA district in order to be eligible. That allows you to help bring the residents that are just right outside that district to come spend money locally here within downtown Bradenton here. Operating days, times, fully customizable. We have some cities that operate 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. Others are 5 days a week, just during kind of that school and work hours. Others, like with Fort Pierce, which we'll be launching in the next few months, they're going to go a Thursday through Sunday program. Fully customizable, and it really is aimed at how we're going to meet your goals, how we're going to drive, and really just execute on everything there. But that's really how we start. It always starts with a pilot project, low risk and low cost. And then when it comes to funding sources, Freebie is funded just like any other form of public transportation, just like a trolley, a bus, a train. It is funded just like any of that. But we've been very creative on how we helped our communities really get the cost down as low as possible. Some of them are through FDOT grants. There's one specific out there here in Florida where you actually get 50% of all operations paid for the first 3 years of the program as it gets off the ground. Others, there's this infrastructure bill. There's going to be a lot of grants coming down for the electrifying, helping local businesses, helping just getting people back out into the communities there. And then another way we help subsidize is through advertising. So I would say in about 9 out of the 10 communities, they want us to sell sponsorships on the vehicles to local businesses, and half of that money goes back to you guys to help lower the cost even further there. And that's a turnkey service. We take care of everything. There's no upfront cost for any of the vehicles, the charging infrastructure, any of the equipment. It's a monthly cost based on the amount of hours of service that it's being provided. And then again, you evaluate it during that first year, and from there you can make long-term decision planning just based on all the feedback and the data that you're able to collect there. But again, very high-level overview of Freebie, how it works in other communities, and how it can potentially work here in Bradenton, and look forward to answering any questions that you guys may have.
Looks great.
Seems like
I'd like to, how much?
Yeah.
Yeah, so cost-wise, it's the biggest driver of the cost is how many hours, how many days it's going to operate. So like I said, some communities operate 40 hours a week, and some go up to over 100 hours per week, and the cost per hour is varied based on that. I would say around like the 56 hours per week, you're around $35 an hour all in per vehicle there, which again, it's a very cost-effective service, and that's at the highest without any subsidies built into that yet. But that's kind of like a cost estimate there, and again, based on how you guys want it to operate, how many days and times. That's when you kind of get a really whole number to say, hey, this is what it's going to cost. And we would, say, if you want to provide a level of service that's, hey, people are picked up within 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and there's some communities that say, hey, listen, it's okay if people are picked up in 20 minutes. That's when we'll come back and say, hey, you need X amount of vehicles to be able to accomplish that there. But we're very flexible in how we work, so it's really based on your goals, your budgets, and how we can fit in there to help execute in the best way possible.
So one car, 56 hours a week, $35 an hour, $1,960. Is that right?
1,960 bucks.
No,
No, it'd be 35 times 56 times 52.
then times 52. Okay, that's per day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or per week, so, yeah.
I-
So it's,
Times 50, I'm sorry, per week, yes.
So-
Okay,
around, let's call it like this, like 40 hours, it's probably around $100,000 per vehicle annually without any subsidies built into that there. When you get up and obviously to the 70 hours and higher, you're probably around the 120 range right there. But again, it's right around that range.
Okay.
Per vehicle annually.
Well, based on, you've done this in other communities. Would you think one car would be enough for us? Yeah.
One car is, again, what you're gonna see is that when you launch a service like this, everybody wants to use it. You have
yeah.
people that need to use public transit and they're gonna use the service, and then you're gonna attract a whole nother user base of people that typically wouldn't use public transit, but they wanna use a convenient service like this. They wanna go and spend money locally. So you have both of those, basically, two groups using the service, and the demand becomes very high.
So what would you, we're just trying to think budgetary-wise, how many cars would we need, what do we need to be
So
looking
I
at if
would-
we
I
want
would
to do
ask
it?
this question first.
Because if we're going to do it, we want to do it right.
Correct. So I would ask this question first. What is the area of service that you guys would want to service? Is that just specific to the 3 CRA districts? Did you want to go out more into the residential neighborhoods? Because again, the bigger you make the service area, bigger wait times could be if you do not have enough vehicles there. So again, it's a balance. And obviously cost is at the forefront of everything, and we want to make sure we fit into your budget and provide you an excellent service. And I wouldn't say one vehicle would be an excellent service.
No. Well, since we're just weighing in, I would think we would stay inside the CRA boundaries because we're using CRA funds. So.
that would be safest.
And then you could start that way, and then if we felt like the demand was there to go outside, then we could address it, but that would not be a CRA, it would be.
Trying to see.
Yeah, our recommendation is always start smaller than trying to start too big, because you can always grow, rather than if you start too big and you have to subtract, people don't like when you take things away.
Well,
We figured that out.
and looking at this map, I'm trying to see, and I can't really see. I know you may be outside of the city limits with this map.
Are we?
I'm not sure.
So I think,
Braden River to 26th Street, it looks like.
I'm talking-
the Aqua is the 3 CRA districts.
Right, well, I'm talking about when you get down here in the purple,
Oh, yeah, I see city limits.
I think part of that is not in the city, just FYI. Everybody has a Bradenton address, but not everybody lives within the city limits.
Got you.
And I'm not opposed to having transportation options out there, but we would need participation from Manatee County, who has a lot more money than we do.
Yes. So then, yes, I would focus then really just on those 3 CRA districts. Again, it's a smaller service area. You can start with a smaller amount of vehicles and you grow from there, rather than say, hey, we want to capture all of this, and, so that would be my recommendation, is starting really more into that CRA district. And probably to provide a good service within that district, you're probably looking around 3 vehicles to start. That would probably kind of get things off, and then based on that data, you can say, where are the peak times? How can we enhance the services? And that's one of the great things, is that from day one, we're collecting so much data from this type of service, because it's all through the app, that we can say, hey, listen, we're going to tweak the schedule. We're going to, need to add a vehicle here during these hours, because this is where our demand is, and we want to be able to meet that demand.
And it does seem to fit with, I know for a long time we have talked about that connectivity between the East Village and then Old Main and down by the Riverwalk. So to me, this is exactly what we've wanted for a while. So I think it looks great.
Safer than scooters.
Yes, I think it is safer than the scooters.
Not for the kids.
Yeah, but I think it just is another option. That's what I like. And it's more of that, this isn't your grandma's Bradenton.
you know, to me, it looks like a great idea, so, what you gotta look at is, you know, it's about, looks like 300K. But that's 3 CRAs, that's 100 apiece. It could be a pretty good service. I mean, I know that we've looked at trying to get a trolley, just try to figure out how to get transportation from downtown to the village, and it's always been
Crazy.
too ridiculous.
Yeah.
This looks like it can do both.
And not to be redundant, this is exactly why I wish we had had our advisory boards set up, but I would think that the downtown merchants would definitely want this. I would think the village would want this. And I would,
Pirates might be someone that would be
the
interested.
Pirates, I mean, I think this is exactly what we want to do, but.
And, you know, we operate a service right over in St. Pete Beach. We launched that with one vehicle in the southern section of Pass-a-Grille back in 2019. And go talk to the city and the officials there and just hear it from them. I mean, it's been one of the most successful things they've ever launched within St. Pete Beach. That service has gone from 1 vehicle, they're up to 4 vehicles now, and it went from servicing just that small section of South Pass-a-Grille to now the entire island. So it's
Great.
I would definitely reach out to them just to get some feedback from them.
That have the congested area. Rob, did you want to chime in?
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, we've always obviously been discussing transportation and transport is in the downtown CRA and the corridor, downtown urban corridor. We also talk about the outskirts, and we know that there's a disconnect between the islands that have a great deal of visitors, that bring a great deal of economic impact into the community, and their interest in experiencing the downtown life as well as the beach life out on the island. So there's a combination, I think, that may have a great deal of beneficial use as it relates to this type of service. I lived in St. Pete Beach before, and I can attest to the growth of this particular company and what they were able to do, and moving people from Pass-a-Grille to the Corey Ave area all the way up and in between. And so even though it's not the same, kind of the concept is the same. What I would recommend is perhaps getting Freebie and their management associates with Katerina and myself on behalf of the city, Katerina on behalf of the CRA, and perhaps taking a look at what we might look at as a start-up pilot program, the cost associated with it, maybe some economic projections in what type of benefit there could be. We know we're also a seasonal community when we talk about snowbird season and the traffic on 64 all the way from the island to the eastern boundary, Pirate City, spring training, the like. And so there may be some both geographical as well as time frame components of when to utilize this type of program. There's obviously a price tag, CRA, city, start a pilot at some point and perhaps see what type of economic development we can spawn from it.
Great. Agreed. If anyone else, that sounds great. I think it sounds exciting. I'd say keep moving forward. I'm going to try to keep going. We got a lot on the agenda yet. Is anyone else?
Chair, I mean, another thing that I would kind of want the guidance of the board is a little bit about days and times. What are you thinking? Is it a night activity, like from 6 to 11? Do you want it on the weekend, all weekend long? Is it for the workers in the morning? That potentially could be in the CCRA. I just want some feedback because that will determine how many hours and the negotiations we're going to go into.
I think I'd like to hear their recommendation since they've done this in other communities. And maybe if you need a little more introduction into our community, what you would recommend, because anything I say is going to be, I don't know.
Well, and it could be that we get several different scenarios of what, we're thinking right now to start off, this would be a good idea, but we know that we've got, tourist season coming and baseball season coming, and so we might want to ramp up and change it at that point in time. And then as, we've got all different things going on happening all year long. So, I mean, it's not like the sidewalks roll up in June and get put back out in August anymore.
But I would like to see the stakeholders weigh in on especially that part.
Okay.
However we do it.
I'm in favor in us pursuing this. And I liked the idea that Mr. Perry brought forward of having someone from the city participate and our executive director participate and sit down and maybe come out with 2, 3, 4 scenarios that you think are doable, so that we could look at it and go, ooh, I like this one and I like this one.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. And, again, it's important to have that conversation because that shapes how the program's going to kind of look like. And for us, it's understanding, what are you guys looking to accomplish? We have some communities that are very focused on commuters, right? They're not even focused on the economic development piece. But I know in a community like this, economic development is at the forefront. So that conversation is definitely important to have with all the stakeholders.
Okay.
Okay.
We have marching orders for them?
Well, it's just to.
Make it so.
We will
pursue.
make it happen. I know, we were very excited when we heard the presentation, so I'm glad you feel the same way we did, so,
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, and next is the all CRAs, the FRA conference report.
Good afternoon, board members, Mr. Rudiso. First, I want to thank the board and thank our director for giving us the opportunity to go to the FRA conference. It was my first conference and Jean's first conference, so I'm always about learning. It opened my eyes to a lot of things, and it helped us learn a little bit more about the CRA. So, as you know, it was in Daytona this year. During the event, we were able to attend a training session, multiple seminars, and we got a chance to network and interact with different vendors promoting different products and services, as well as interact with members of different CRAs within Florida. And a good thing that we took from that is that everybody still has questions about certain things. Everybody has same obstacles, and everybody's working to do better for their communities, and there's strategic actions to do that. So that was great to hear. And so some of the highlights, and I'll get to what was discussed a little bit this morning as well. So one was we did a board training session that was conducted by Jeff Burton, and it was an amazing session. It gave us a lot of education on CRAs, a little bit of the history and things like that. What the big takeaway from that is to make sure the projects, events, things like that, to make sure they are supported by Florida statute, make sure that they are in the plan, and to work with your attorney, your city attorneys, to eliminate any legal issues that may arise from these things, so we can nip it in the bud before it becomes an issue. So that was, a big takeaway from that, and as well as the importance of doing detailed documentation of those things, just in case you have to defend those projects and things, that you have a record of what was beneficial to the CRA, maybe a summary of the project, what the funds were, things like that. So just to keep that documentation, detailed. So those are a few good items on that. As far as the, I did a seminar called the Keep It Legal seminar, and this is where the funding events came up. So basically in that is that an attorney was kind of given the seminar, and it's a recommendation. The thing is that we have to work with our city attorney and see what's in the best interest of our CRAs. So these things are recommendations, and they look at Florida statute, and it can be interpreted in different ways, right? So every attorney looks at it, and they might look at it a little differently this way or that way or whatever. It may be not that anything's illegal or anything's wrong. It's just you have to tailor those projects and events to where it meets that criteria, right? That's a benefit to the CRA. So in what Board Member Sanders was talking about was prior to 2019, in the Florida statute, it states that monies in Development Trust Fund may be expended from time to time for undertakings of a community redevelopment agency as described in the Community Redevelopment Plan for the purposes including but not limited to. Okay, and then it lists, things that we can fund and stuff like that. So what happened is that the wording but not and limited to, in my understanding, it kind of leaves the door open a little bit. Okay, so it's up for interpretation. So some CRs may have overextended that or overused that to maybe do events that is not beneficial, firework displays, parades, things like that. So in 2019, and this is how it states in 2022 on Florida statute, that same section states, effective October 1st, 2019, monies in the Redevelopment Trust Fund may be expended for undertakings of a community redevelopment agency as described in the Community Redevelopment Plan only pursuant to an annual budget adopted by the Board of Commissioners of the Community Redevelopment Agency and only for the purposes specified in paragraph C. So they took out the language of but, limited to, and they put in only. So to me, in my opinion, and Mr. Rudisell can correct me if I'm wrong, that kind of just restricted us a little more, So we have to look at those that it's referenced, I think, in 163-370, that we have to go by those guidelines. As far as events and things like that, it has to be tailored to the benefit of the CRA. Okay, so it's dissemination of information. You can take surveys, you can do outreach and things like that. So it has to be tailored to that. In my opinion, it doesn't necessarily say you can't do events or you can do events, but we have to do things that are beneficial to us because we're investing those dollars. So we need to look at a return on those dollars because that's what we're here for, right? So, and to, slum and blight and all that, but we're here to raise the community, and it's an investment of our dollars that the city and the county give us to be able to, look at that return on investment when we sunset, and look at what we did good for the community and building that community. So that's my takeaway from that seminar and my understanding of things. The other thing that came up, and I asked because I know at the last meeting that you guys talked about a little bit about nonprofit organizations and religious institutions in regards to grants and things like that. So I took it upon myself. I know Mr. Russo had talked about there's not a lot of case study on this, so I just asking some opinions and things like that. As far as doing something on like a site enhancement project, a grant, things like that, the thing is that you have to look at it as what's the economic impact of that. So say a church comes and wants to change out their fence, okay? So we have the discretion, but the thing is that what's the impact of that gonna be, right? They don't pay property taxes, okay? But them raising the level of their site, their fence, may raise property values of adjacent properties and the community as a whole. So is that impact that's beneficial to us? So in my recommendation, or what I look at it, is that it's going to be on a case-by-case kind of basis. A lot of CRs have put language in their grants, or a few that I've talked to, that those aren't eligible. 501c3s or religious organizations are not eligible for their grants, but that was based on their preference and not based on any sort of legal opinion. So those are the things I took away from the FRA, and I look forward to being able to, go every year and learn more, because things change. So, thank you. And Jean can give her a little update here.
I enjoyed it too because, I used to be a Main Street director, and learning about revitalization is something I like anyway. So I'm glad I'm here full time and be able to add something, to that part as well. But I did learn about the Main Street program here, and I didn't know much about the Florida Main Street program, but it might be something, for us to look into. Not sure, but there's even things like the Village of the Arts. I remember up north they were like what do you call them? Warehouse districts. So it could possibly work in something like that. But I made a lot of contacts, and that's part of the thing that I think you do with a conference like this. And so, and I met the people that do zero empty spaces. And what these people do is activate vacant commercial real estate and create working artist studios. So that's something I think downtown, would be an awesome space to look into this. There's some in Sarasota, there has been, and so it's as short as a 30-day lease. And, you're kind of using that space whilst nothing's in there, and then you could move it somewhere else, that sort of thing. But that's a couple of things that I learned. I even got a couple of contacts who I'm gonna be sending our RFQ to for the Mineral Springs Park. So I enjoyed it. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bill, did you say?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions of either one of them, but I think Chris might have been more attuned to what was discussed at the conference. An example, and you correct me if I'm wrong, example was given on events that, let's say, for example, I'll use a live example, the opening of our park just recently. CRA put money in it. It's clearly a CRA functional event to improve the community park system in your community for all people. So in that case, you would have the right to put on an event to try to get community outreach to begin with, maybe even during, to keep the community actively, giving ideas and thoughts to it, and then have a grand celebration of when it finished. That was the example that was given, that it would be a proper use of CRA funds because you were developing that area, and so you was promoting it up front, maybe during and after. But once that is concluded, now we shouldn't be putting on concerts in that park. That would be outside the limit, because it now, and somebody might say, well, yeah, that benefits the park. Okay, the park's built, it's done, it's over. That we're going on to the next project. So that was my understanding. Tell me if I was right or wrong.
Well, from my knowledge or what I got, that was that was correct. That you can do like groundbreakings. You want to show the community that we're out there and that we're doing, our work. As far as an event after that event, like a park or something like that, I think that's where you have to go into, is there another benefit for the CRA to do that? So say it's a year later.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're looking to disseminate information and do other things, then it's possible. It could be tailored to an event.
Yeah, you have to tie it to the uses of the funds. And it's a little ambiguous, a little bit. It could be, but I think that's where we need to.
Right, and I think, in my opinion, we have to look at the event, look at ways to tailor it to benefit the CRA, speak with our city attorney to see what his agreements are with that, and then we can move forward or not move forward with that project.
Right.
But I think it has to be on events and things like that. In my opinion, I don't think it can be a blanket thing. Right. Because events are different, and you might want to do different types of things, and having the documentation after of what happened at that event and what we were able to do and what we were able to gather from that event. Right. I think again, I think it's on a case-by-case basis because of different events for different things.
Yeah, one more question. And so in 2019, the statute did change.
Correct.
All right, that was what I was referring to, that the law changed or whatever. The statute changed and the language changed, so that was what I was referring to. I don't know if you understood that, but so you'd agree that they did change the statute to refine this clarification on the uses of funds. Would that be true?
I don't know.
Oh, well, earlier you said there's been nothing done in years or something.
Yes, there's been no substantive changes to those provisions of the CRA statutes. Yes.
All right. I just text our director some changes. I haven't had time to read them. Do you believe there's been any changes or is it what I just...
To the statute?
Yeah.
I mean, I believe there are potentially minor changes. I don't know that there's been any major legal opinions that events, for example, cannot be done. Just like a huge one that happened in 2019 was from the Auditor General on how we interact with nonprofits. So in 2019, there were some substantive changes, but I'm not aware personally that any huge ones have taken place since 2019.
Okay. It depends on the definition of huge. I don't know if I said huge, but there has been some changes. So, but the basic ideology or philosophy behind TIF money was to revitalize slum and blight, to get rid of it like we did on 14th. That's a true definition of tore down an old hotel, cost us a lot of money, and then to redevelop it into affordable housing project. That's a true example of CRA proper funding. Nobody could question that. So that's what, but when we go and well, first of all, we're not supposed to use them, again, CRA funding for anything that the city would normally pay for, like city services, city fire trucks, city cars, you know, that type of stuff. And in that, I heard conversation over there about city policing. And did you get that same information I did? And if so, would you take a minute to discuss that?
So in that same seminar that they talked about the statute and events and things like that, it was to that attorney's opinion that the community policing innovations had to be looked at a little closer because of the definition of, well, she didn't say the definition of innovations, but she said it had to be looked at. Okay, so I looked at, when I got back, I kind of looked at the definition of community policing innovations. So if you look at that definition, it kind of, it's not exactly what she had stated, in a sense. So I think you have to look at, as far as community policing goes, I think we have to look at that definition closely and speak with our city attorney to see if the funding of community policing is in fact something the CRA can fund. So that's where it lies, and that's a thing that we have to make sure that we are able to speak with our attorney and get his opinion on that.
All right.
And that's the way
So
we
you
go.
think that that was her opinion, again, you know, and so we may have a different opinion. But is that not, let me ask you, is that not, policing, is that not part of a normal function of the city, of any city outside? You know, aren't we playing just a little bit, aren't we trying to supplement our police if we're doing this through the CRA funding, which primary focus is to remove some of the blight?
Again, I can't interpret
Right.
the definition myself. I'm not an attorney. So I can just see what's written in the definition, and you guys can look at the definition as well and form your own opinion.
Right.
And if we want to move forward, I think we need to have you know, if that's what you advise, to look into it, you know, and have Mr. Rudisell kind of look at it and give his opinion on it. But I think he has given some opinion on it, since we are looking at amending the master plans.
Right,
So-
that's where I'm going with this, because we've got 3 amendments, resolutions to amend, which to me is a little bit, I think it needs more, more investigation, legal investigation.
If I
Okay.
could comment?
I just wanted to, so from what I'm understanding, it's kind of the basic rule, but still being more doubled down on. If you're going to do anything, make sure it's in the plan. And then make sure that you can justify that it's in the plan, and this is the reason why we say that it's a justifiable expense. And then they're saying, and if you're going to do that, then make sure you're keeping full documentations in case you're challenged for it later.
Right.
Yeah.
So by amending these plans, we're starting step one of saying, well, at least it's in the plan, and then we can keep pursuing, if so be, and I won't be here, so, but if so be, you put it in the plan, well, now you have step one of your legal challenge of why you can do it, and then you have to defend why this isn't normal policing, and so there's, and then keep full documentation in case you're challenged.
Yeah, question to you. But, and plans can change. There's no question about that, because the economy changes, everything changes.
Oh, he wasn't.
But, so, but are we changing the plan to fit the problem, or is the problem already there? What you want to say, are we trying to create a resolution to do this versus that was there? Would we not be calling attention to this, that we're changing the plan just to do this? And somebody say, wait a minute, that wasn't in the plan. You just changed the plan to suits your need. And somebody might say, you can't do that.
Well, I would say, and to be honest, and I would say, to be fair and legal, so we're changing the plan because 3 votes of the board, I don't remember the votes and anything, wanted to change the plan to include this. So then that's the vote of the board. And then if we move forward, double check, and then if someone challenges us later, we'd have to say, well, I mean, yes, technically we could, I mean, you're right in saying, is it in the plan? What's not right now, so we better not do it. We'll fix it in there. It's being modified. We're moving forward on that, and then it's just that, but the board, we're changing the plan because there was 3 votes to change the plan. That's why we're doing it.
And I just wanted to add that, you know, by definition, blight is crime, and we are trying to enhance our police protection to avoid to address crime. So to me, that is not a far trump, you know, that this is appropriate. But, I mean, it is an opinion, and I guess we all have a different aspect, but I just feel like, you know, that's my opinion.
Thank you for that, because that is so true. In blighted areas, it makes it, what should I say, a comfort zone for crime. And I was under the feeling that we had to kind of wordsmith the language in the plan, because we had been doing community policing. We just had to make sure we were following the actual definition, because the chief was talking with us once and was explaining the difference, because I was having trouble. I was like, policing is policing, but you explained that it's a totally, I won't say totally different, but it has some more pieces involved, because they're more engaged. And I know you're not against it or anything,
No.
but I like the way you kind of made that connection, because blighted areas, you know, they kind of breed crime. So you lift the area and hopefully lift out the
I think
problem.
one is proactive and one is reactive. And I think what we're trying to establish
We're
here
trying to be-
are some proactive policing techniques to try and address, you know, perceived or not perceived or real or whatever, but we really want to have more proactive policing to enhance the reactive. And that's why I think it's appropriate for the CRA funds to do it.
Okay, and Mrs. Barnaby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, we discussed this before and voted to put language in our plan to deal with community policing. So, Mr. Rudisil, obviously, you went ahead and wrote this up at the direction of the board because we passed that we wanted to put community policing in the plan. I don't think you would have advised us to do anything that would have been illegal.
Yeah, I mean, community policing innovations are specifically authorized under Chapter 163, and that's clear. At the same time, CRA is prohibited from funding general government overhead, right? So that's where the rub comes in. That's where the rubber meets the road, is at what point, does your typical funding of law enforcement become, something that can be funded by the CRA. And so we have had that discussion. We've opined on that issue, and we've essentially said, and you'll see the language that is proposed to go into the CRA plan specifically says that it would be a service above and beyond the general government operating or the general level of service provided by the police. So yes, I think that is completely in compliance with 163.
And that's what I think this board voted on and wanted to have, was designated officers in designated zones above and beyond what we normally did with regular drive through the zone kind of thing. That's what I saw. To me, we've already voted on this. Now we have the language in front of us.
Okay, well, I'd like to keep the agenda, keep moving. We're down to 6, Central CRA. If no one objects, I'd like to go out of order and do the Minnie Rogers request from Peter Diato first to get him up and out, and then we can go into the resolutions, which will be, we'll be rolling those through all the CRAs. Come on up, Peter.
Thank you, Pat, Mr. Chairman. My name's Peter Diadio. My address is 1101 3rd Street East in Palmetto. I've been in front of the board a number of times. Thank you for allowing me back again. And I just would like Karen to pass a couple things out to the members if you don't mind. Come over there, Karen. Oh, I'm sorry, this is mine. I have 8.5 by 11 of the posters that I put up to put on the sketch so that the community can see them as well. And what these boards are is the updated building with the new tenant mix. These is the building and the site plan and the floor plan of what we've submitted to the city for there's 2 applications that we've submitted, which is the form-based code application and the site improvement plan application. This is the new building plan. So an update, which we've promised, is that since I've last been here, I guess it was in September. Oh, do you not have enough? I have too many here. Someone missing one?
Yeah.
So since we were here in September, we promised to make that application at the end of October, which we tried to make it by the end of October. We had it ready, but of course the hurricane put that off some. As soon as the city opened, we made that application, which was the next week or so. We made the application for the site improvement plan that went both to the city and to Public Works, which is the party or the group that will give us comments. And also the form-based code application, which went along with it, had some modifications potentially requested from in the city planning. We're waiting for their response on those. And once we receive those responses, and I expect they'll need some time for that. I was hoping to get it last week, but we haven't received it yet. But appreciate that they've, have a lot of people to look at that. Fire, Public Works, police, sanitation, which was storm sewer, sanitation and storm sewer, as well as utilities. I'm not sure if they have traffic, I think so, traffic. So we're waiting for their response so that then we can, of course, respond to them. In the phone-based code application, we were asked to resubmit that because I think there's some unsure if we're gonna need an amendment or need modification. I think the planning department needs to look at that to see if that's something that we actually need. Part of it is because some of the requests have to do, for instance, the 8-foot minimum that the setback. Of course, we have a utility easement that's 26 feet wide, that the town has the easement. And so I can't hold that 8 foot, I need to be 26 feet, I believe the number is. It may be a small different number, but I think that's what it is. So there are certain things that Robin's group is going over to see if they need a modification or if we're as close to what, I'm not sure what they're gonna say, but so we needed to resubmit that plan for them to consider whether the application was required or if so, whether it needed to be modified. We also have been in front of the Florida DOT as well, and where you can see on the earlier plans, I'm going to add this little ditty here for a moment. I'm not sure if you recall, but your earlier plans, we had a right in and a right out. Florida DOT doesn't like the idea of the right out. They're concerned of traffic conflicts further down the road, and so we made that modification prior to our submission in October because of their input. So again, the plan changed. I think we're up to SK, which is the concept plan 35 now. Of course, this is site plan application 1, but the different configurations that we've had over this process has been quite a few, as you recall. Of course, big part of that is our tenant change. We no longer have a food store with a larger building. Now we have what we have currently, actually, to share this with you that you probably have not seen, maybe an email along with the application.
You might want to turn it the other way. It's upside down. Thank you.
So the orientation here is, this is 13th. This is the Family Dollar space. Our entrance is here, over here. And this would be Subway or the Pizza Store and the other tenants in the middle. So these kind of changes, and of course the building that you can see in the profile there. For everyone to see there, you have the 8.5 by 11s in your packet, is the dollar store on this end cap. We expect the Subway here. Now, they may choose to be on 13th, which is the opposite corner. That's still up in the air. And of course, the shops in the middle of that. So those changes, and I'm just gonna go to the site plan one more time. the site plan change, I think not only this right in, right out was important, but also the location of the main entrance. Again, important because, oh, I can look at this now, I better not. Okay, so this is your stormwater retention, where previously it was here, it was a number of places, but that now the engineer has calculated that to be the adequate stormwater and to connect to 13th and onto the major road. But that was important for our parking, for the shops. With the change of tenants, you need different accesses to the tenant space. That's in for review with the city. We're about to, and Pat signed the authority to make application to the FDOC on a formal basis. And we've been in front of them several times on a preliminary basis. First, of course, with the original plan, with their input. Then, of course, with the more recent plan with the, reduction of the right out, right in only. And now they're ready for a formal plan with a full submission of site plan. And you need to have your full engineered plan ready for them before they'll accept the full application. And I believe we're there now. With the utilities completed, the stormwater completed, the site plan, concept plan, and the only thing that's not really nailed down is we're still hassling a little bit with where the trash location's going to be for the McDonald's. It's still a little bit up in the work, but I'm sure that's going to be worked out. And so not only have we gone to them, but then we've also had to go back to our tenant to be sure that there was acceptable. And that's the one item that's up in the air, that trash can, but I'm sure that's going to work out. And we're back to Family Dollar as well with their Family Dollar is ready to go in for real estate committee approval as soon as we get our comments back from the city to make sure we're not going to make additional plans. And we have actually the lease ready for McDonald's, subject to the exhibits, which is, of course, city input. And when we get that, we can finish those two important leases, and we'll be ready to really, I'm anxious to start construction. Again, as I mentioned or requested in September, and I thought everyone thought that we were going to be able to get this site improvement plan application completed in the form-based code completed, and maybe we still will. But again, my concern is that we're running into the election, we're running into Thanksgiving, we're running into Christmas. Will we get it completed? And that's why I request an extension, because I want to start construction in the first quarter, and maybe we still can. But to give the city and the Public Works time to give us comments, and then us to respond to those comments. And I see it 2 or 3 rounds. And I say that because we've already been through the special permit application. It was 3 rounds. And the site plan application last year, it was 5 rounds. And so I think that needs to work its process so that we can be sure that we capture everyone's concern and get back to them with the proper response rather than a rushed response just to catch this day that we're afraid that it's going to expire. So that's my update. That's my request. I sent in a proposed draft, but certainly Scott can modify it, make it however he wants. But I would like, I'm asking the board to give us this extension so we could comfortably finish the project. I'd just like to add one more thing before you guys vote and stuff, is that the concept of this proposed transportation is excellent, because that's the whole thing really with our project, and I'm sure other projects. We're disconnected to the downtown or to the Riverwalk. I mean, I took a scooter over that I took off my boat and zipped down, but everyone doesn't do that. Right? I was going to the destination, looking at our location. But that communication of transportation that is proposed, is a great concept to bring someone to our shopping center or to the baseball park or to the river or to the downtown, or people that want to shop at our spot. There is it's a great idea. I hope you guys can work something out like that. So I'm open for questions.
Okay, Katerina, we don't have a document in front of us on the extension.
It was an email that I forwarded to you, I believe it was a week or two ago. Mr. Diario sent us a proposed draft, but we just wanted, since we were coming here before you today, for all you to give us direction on what you'd like to do. And then Mr. Rudisell and I will either, we'll work with Mr. Diario, whatever the direction is.
That's what I was wondering. Okay. So,
First of all, I'm happy to hear you refer to us as a city of Bradenton. In print, you're always referring to our staff as town staff and referring to this council as town council. And I find, for some reason, I found that a little upsetting, because you also refer to our community meetings as the meeting with cookies. So, sir, I am happy to hear you use the term city.
I apologize for that. My area that we live, we work with towns, and it's my apology for not to call it a city.
Well, we've talked about some of the terminology you've used.
I apologize
before.
for that, Pam.
I'm concerned because the whole first time an agreement was arranged between you and council, Ms. Coker and I weren't on board yet. The mayor wasn't on board yet. But in the 11th hour, there was a rush to sign the agreement because of a deadline that you needed to meet. 1 year later, you come for an extension. 1 year later, you come for another. Ms. Singer, Mary. I just want to make sure these delays are not unnecessary delays. I mean, things I thought were moving pretty well. You realized, when did we have the meeting with cookies with the community, and we left that meeting understanding that a supermarket wasn't really the focus? Because Mr. Diadio, you seem like you're saying just recently or, shortly we decided that, so that's what kind of delayed you. When did we?
It was in May, I believe May 10th, but
May.
It was sometime in May.
May I respond?
Yes.
Sure. So, while I was requested to be at that meeting, and the chairman of the CRA, or the CRA director, asked me to create the presentation to allow the city, not the city, but the city's advisory board and the constituents that attended, to let them know the work that we have done to secure a food store, so that they could understand that a food store may or may not, be the right thing that they're requesting. And we did that presentation. And we did, at that meeting, I 100% agree, got a lot of feedback regarding the Family Dollar or regarding other potential tenants. But what we didn't understand, me and my team, that at the meeting, there was a cognizant decision that we no longer want a food store. Because actually, Councilwoman, during that same time period, we were negotiating with Aldi to take the spot there.
I beg to differ. It seemed like in your presentation, you were just constantly discussing the grocers that had said no to you.
Well,
And then we had one grocer to just.
Pam, let me just
My
follow up on
apologies.
that.
Go ahead.
Is that Aldi originally, early progress with them, denied the site completely, but yet they wanted to be in Lakewood Ranch. But yet we went back to them to explain to them the market, and then they, at that time, because marketing and convincing a large company to go to a location, it's not a 1 week thing. It could be a year or two.
And
So
it
let me just give you the
It wasn't a
follow-up.
1 week thing, I understand that.
So,
And
what
pardon
all
me,
the-
I'm
sorry.
I don't want to be rude, but I don't think you have to go through those step-by-steps again of how that went. Let's give the rest of the
Sure.
board a chance to talk.
So anyways,
Yes. Well, not at, can she at this moment?
I mean, we can do that, it's not on the agenda, but
I think normally how you do it is you all, first the board would
Okay.
speak and then, but it's up to you, Chair.
okay.
if I can only just complete if we understood that at the end of that meeting, we were never supposed to have a food store there again, we wouldn't have moved forward with the ideal food. And we brought a lease in. Now, we did understand that there were hopefully alternative uses. But, remember, our whole team, every Tuesday, is working on tenants. And I never gave that team direction to no longer work with, because I was on my route to the International Council of Shopping Centers for a meeting with Aldi. So while we did make that presentation, and by the way, whatever the board thinks is what we're going to do. As you outlined when we brought the lease and you said you don't want one, well, fine. We're okay with that. But the developer and his team didn't understand that at that meeting, all of a sudden, we never wanted to have a food store again. We were glad to hear that we will consider alternatives. So that's, and I appreciate it I'm sorry if that's what you thought, but that's not what we understood. And that's the only reason why we would have continued to spend the time and effort to do that.
Well, where I was really coming from was you were saying because your focus had to change, that was the cause of the delay.
Oh, well,
And I was
certainly
just trying
that's
to
factual.
understand the timing of when you realized that we were maybe looking at another direction for a food option for the community. But back to Ideal Foods, at that point, they had
backed
walked
out
away.
at that point. No question
They had
about it.
walked away.
There's no
So,
question about that.
Should we wait 10 months, right? 10 months, not 10 minutes. Because they walked away.
And there was 100% agreed. But you see, what else happened? What else happened? Well, COVID came and went. Their market studies or whatever they happened was inside their business, modified and changed. And then they were looking to do some additional developments, and they came back to us. So I agree with you. People's mind changes, just like the commission changes at times. And we're not calling foul. We're not saying, hey, you can't change your mind. But just like, the drugstores, their market changes. And the food store, in this case, Ideal, they pulled out, and then they approached us back. Same with Aldi. Originally, they said no, and then at that point, they said maybe. So anyways, I'm sorry that...
No, I apologize. Let's give
Well,
the
let's,
rest of the board.
Mrs. Barnaby?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My recollection of that meeting is very similar to what Mrs. Coachman said. I remember turning and saying, this is the first time the community has said, if Miller's Market is going to be upgraded and there, we don't necessarily need a grocery store at 13th Avenue. And I remember saying, that's the first time I've heard that. I'm very happy to hear that because it's a constrained site. And to try to get a large name brand grocery retailer to look at a constrained site, it's twice as hard as anything else. So that was my recollection of that. But getting to this site plan, I had a thought and a question. When I'm looking at the site plan on the curly Q here, you have an arrow going out. I think that's a mistake. I think it's only one way in, but where you see it says provide and install painted pavement arrow, you've got an arrow going one way and the other way, and I think you only want to have one there.
You're right, Councilwoman. This arrow here is supposed to point this way because this is a two-way road.
Correct.
And this this should be looping this
Okay,
way.
I see.
So
Okay.
but I believe that's been corrected on the actual submission.
Okay.
And now, it may not have, but it will be.
Again, I just, I'm looking at it
Good comment.
going, no, I don't think you really want that arrow there going that way. But the other thing is we've talked about having a public art piece to honor and commemorate the life of Minnie Rogers, and I don't see it on this site plan.
Well, I'm gonna show you where where it could be. Here. And also, let's talk about the two circles for a minute. Now, the front area is more or less saved for that artwork. I'm assuming, I have to suggest that once we get to that, you'll have the art expert that was doing art around the city look at our corner and decide what kind of art, how it's gonna look, and what that's gonna be. The second area here, again, you folks did a nice job hiring a consultant to talk about the neighborhoods and the walks and how those things should be. And in his report, he talked about this area being more park-like rather than like, many of the storm sewer things that you see fenced and caged in and just to hold water. And so we agree with that, and we expect that as the process continues, maybe there's a garbage can and a seat or a couple benches to sit there, and I'm not sure where the commission or the council would like to see the Minnie Rogers, but we named it Minnie Rogers Plaza, the commemorative. I don't know what it's gonna look like. I have to reach out to this commission and maybe your art gal that's a woman or that is.
You mean Mrs. Farmer that's sitting right there?
Mrs. Farmer, yeah.
Yeah,
She
okay.
has done a wonderful job. I've looked at several of the presentations that she made, talking about how the artists give the concept, and so I expect that will be how, that piece of art or commemoration, whether it be on the pinnacle, whether it be along the park bench kind of, because there will be a storm water feature there, and rather than having a concrete, pond fenced in, we see it more like a vegetated area, maybe with depending on how much water will actually be in there, whether there'll be a fountain or not. But there's definitely the room we need for our stormwater management there, whether it will be a pond. In other words, if there's enough water to allow for a pump or not, I just don't know. But we could do that. And I'd leave it to the more experts on how that wants to be designed to decide where it will go and, what it should look like.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
Anybody else?
I know we have a citizen that would like to
Oh, yeah,
comment.
okay, so, did card come in? Did you?
She's
I
supposed,
think, okay, well, I think my only other question would be probably from the planning department and maybe Public Works, if they're here. Where are we? I wouldn't want to give a 4-month extension and then have another extension. I think we need to decide, number one, if we're going to go forward. If we don't go forward, I think then we're going to be, I don't think anything's going to happen on that site. And is that what we want? No. And do we need to does he need additional time? I can appreciate, this seems like it would be a really tough way to develop a site, having to keep coming back to us to ask for permission. And there was the change of direction. And so I appreciate that. Whether or not everything, I just want to know if it's moving forward and if a 4-month extension is going to get us to where we need to be and not, in some ways it's just getting, so.
Okay. Robin Singer with the Planning Community Development Department. Excuse me. We have received the form-based code review. We've started our review. We sat down and we're looking at that last week. I know that they've received the site improvement plan, and that's working its way through Public Works. A lot of times what can delay projects is just the timeliness of the response, and he's indicating that they intend to timely respond to comments and move forward. I think the plan is somewhat workable. There are going to be adjustments that are needed, and maybe some actual adjustments in terms of not just administrative approvals, but some changes might be needed. But in any case, I think that review process shouldn't take more than a couple of months. I think what worked really well, we were sitting here about this time last year with the Metropolitan and discussing specific target dates for when they had to pour the elevator shaft, that sort of thing. I thought that was very helpful in terms of having a very firm target on when specific things had to occur as opposed to they'll commence construction. So I think in your deliberations, if you're looking to continue with this project, to maybe get specific, and I think a realistic time frame, within a few months, they should be done with their review process. So we're talking probably in a February time frame. They still would have to go through the building permit review process, but we can let them get an early start on that once we've firmed up the location of the structures. And so by spring, they should be able to break ground. And I think if, that's a negotiation to have with him on whether that's realistic or not. But the firmer and clearer the deadlines of what you want to see occurring out there, the more helpful it is to us to all kind of focus on that deadline as a target.
Mary Ann, when's your birthday?
No, we're not going to March.
March 18th.
March 18th.
March 18th.
February.
Hey, Pam?
That's probably hysterical if we have another deadline on my birthday. I tell you what.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
If I could just add one thing to the discussion, there is built into the current lease a 60-day grace period. So it's not like the lease terminates if they don't get their SIP approved by the end of the year. There is a 60-day grace period that's built in there. So that doesn't mean we don't necessarily, doesn't necessarily mean we couldn't consider an extension, but there is some flexibility already.
Okay. I was going to ask planning. So this is, I think, for the first time, us acting like developers for a supermarket site, So this is new to us, but you do this all the time. On a site this big and this complicated, and then with all the in and outs that we're doing by our board and the community board, is this pretty normal for this for something like this to be at this point? I mean, I think we don't know. I think where we're at is we want to make sure that we're doing the citizens' work as well as possible and holding things accountable. And I want to make sure that we're just maybe we're just too new. We're not used to this, and it's maybe that they all take this long. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think sort of the marketing of the site, deciding what uses were going to be there, that was a lot of what was taking the time in terms of the work that they're having to do. I think from our end, in terms of review of the project and commencing development, I think we're talking about, at most maybe a 6-month timetable to get started on that, and I think that's very realistic. I can't really speak to the time it's taken us to get to this point, because that really, again, had to do with what the site was going to be and who he had to market it to make that work. So I think if you talk about sort of vanilla spaces, certainly, I mean, there's a few spaces that he hasn't really allocated to a specific use, and that's pretty normal for development. You build a shopping center with not necessarily having all your tenants picked out. Okay. So I think they can move forward at this point without necessarily knowing specifically each tenant.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So are we looking at?
We have a citizen that still
Oh,
wants
yes,
to talk.
and so, and the citizen, Kimla Murrell. Hi.
My name is Kim Morrell, and 521 12th Avenue West. I was at that meeting that they had in May, and like you guys did say, that they were talking about not doing a grocery store because the community had said that the community changed so much, and that they were reviewing, they wanted to see other options. And then the next thing that a lot of us heard was that they were doing a McDonald's there. And a lot of the citizens was like, where did this come from? I thought we were gonna come together and let the community, a lot of people know, and then they could put their input on what would be there. Because we feel like it's kind of a slap in the face for the legacy of Miss Minnie, because she was about education. They did a lot. It's so much history there, and we will lose that history with maybe a plaque or a bench. And so a lot of the citizens were thinking something along education, because they took away the Boys and Girls Club. They took away the center where the youth were being educated, and there's nothing there for the youth. And so that's just my spiel. But there was other people, other citizens that had concerns. And like I said, at that last meeting, I don't know if they had meetings before. Okay. At that last meeting, we were going to do a meeting for the community to come together and give some input.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been through the Central CRA, right? I mean, the
Yes.
CRA board, okay.
We kind of left there with the consensus too, that McDonald's was kind of the carrot, so they will come, that kind of thing.
Well, I think the one thing is we be proud of our actions, because, I mean, I know that, I remember I was on the board when 13th Ave came to the city and wanted to do land swap to go over by where's Normal Light is. So that was a request that came. And it was after that the previous mayor turned this into a campaign stunt, which really didn't go over well with the community. So I believe that we've done a yeoman's job to try to get a store in there, and the market changed and all that stuff. So, we've done our work to get that, and now we're just trying to figure out how to do the rest of it. I mean, I don't. It is what it is. I think we're just doing the best we can. So, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, what is the, I mean, Mr. Diadio is here saying that he wants an extension. What is the drop dead date? And then Mr. Rudisill says there's 60 days.
It was the 30th, I think.
December.
Yeah, it was the 30th.
November 30th. But there's still.
No, December.
December 30th.
Right.
But there's still.
A
60
period.
days.
60 days after that. So are you saying that December, January, February, you're not going to be able to get anything done?
No, that's not all, but you have to remember, you see, in order for that 60 days to happen, you default me. And then we become enemies. And then we start litigation. And then I have 60 days in order to get the city to say yes. So, why do we need to argue about
So what is the amount of time that you're asking
No,
for,
I
sir?
think that 3 or 4 months is fine, and it fits right in with what the city needs. We've made the presentation. We've modified our tenant mix to fit what we think that the CRA is requesting us to do. We've been successful with getting the correct tenants in there so that it's a financeable project. We've modified the site plan to fit the comments from the department, FDOT, and some of and I'm sure there's gonna be more. Robin and her team and the Public Works will have more comments, and we'll make those modifications to make them work, and we need to get the tenants on board, and I think we will. So I think we're on track, and I'm not trying to delay. I mean, we've spent $250,000 on this site, a ton of money, and we only make money when we start building. So I'm not trying to delay it. I'm trying to hurry it. It's just that every time there are required changes, that we need to make the adjustments.
So would you be amenable to a 90-day extension from December 30th? Is that what you're saying?
That would be fine.
I'm just asking for information purposes. I'm not going to make a motion.
But I mean, that would be an acceptable time frame. There should not be a problem doing it at that time.
Mr. Rudisill, do you have a?
Well, I was just going to say, if there is a thought to extend that time frame by 90 days, that perhaps we then would eliminate the 60-day notice of default provision to avoid the situation that Mr. Diadio talked about. It would just be a 90-day with a drop dead at that point.
I also wouldn't mind, as Ms. Singer said, is asking for, whether foundation, I don't know what's reasonable, but to have, I'd like to see actually some progress. I don't know what would be appropriate. Maybe Ms. Singer could, I don't know, but I feel like if we're gonna give you a 90-day extension, I think we need to get something for it too, which might be just you saying, okay, I'll have this poured by, I don't know.
Well, I would like to comment on that. I mean, we want to build as fast as possible. So it's the concern would be is that what we're talking about now is a site improvement plan. But what we still need to start construction is the DOT permit, because the city won't give me a building permit without it. We still need I have it written down here, the environmental, I don't have it, the environmental, a permit from the state for the stormwater management, and a building permit. So those items are gonna take additional time. I would love to put a bulldozer out there and start, if the city will give me, because the city of Berlin gave me a site improvement up in Berlin, Connecticut, gave me a site improvement permit before I had building permits, and they allowed my tractors to go out there and start the site work. If this city allows that without building permits to go vertical, we'll start. If the city can say that when my site improvement plan is done, I can start doing the site work, we'll begin. But if I have to wait for building permits, which is vertical foundations, then my hands are tied.
So I think for the benefit of the board, I was looking at the First Amendment and restatement to the ground lease, which is the one that we are looking to amend. And Mr. Rudisell, if I make a misstatement, please correct me. So the first deadline is the end of the December, and what Mr. Diario has to do is obtain a site improvement permit for the entire project. And then there's the 60 days to cure the default. If Mr. Diario, or with extension or without, if Mr. Diario meets the deadline, effective after that, he can purchase the property after that. Then the next deadline, if he doesn't purchase the property, is that if after 3 years from the effective date, the commencement date for the first commercial building has not occurred, and such failure was not the result of bad faith delay by the landlord, then the landlord shall provide the tenant with notice of intent to terminate. And again, we have the 60-day provision. Then the next deadline after that is if after 6 years from the effective date, the project improvements have not been completed, and it's not, again, because of bad faith delay by us, then the landlord shall provide the tenant with notice of intent. So we have multiple deadlines. First one in December, next one is the 3-year, next one is the 6 years, with the ability to purchase once the site improvement permit has been approved. So I just wanted you to a refresher as to this whole deal.
Since we're considering an extension, then I feel like that option 5 at such and such date should be extended as well. Am I off the chain on that?
I mean, that could certainly be incorporated into an amendment
Since we keep
of the lease,
holding it.
Okay. All right.
if that's the desire of the board.
Okay. All right, well, so we talked earlier today about how it takes so long to get anything done in government. And to be honest, this is my experience for all these years. It takes 5 years to get anything done. I mean, just to get an agreement, and 10 years before you see it. So what I was kind of trying to say earlier is I know this is getting, we're all getting tired of this, but I think we are making headways to where, you know, we can see this gonna happen. I think we're pretty close. We're just getting, you know, a little short on it. So I think that that's okay. It's understandable on our part, your part too. So I think I just feel like we should just keep moving forward on this. I mean, I don't, and however, with whatever agreements y'all come up with, I'm not making any agreements, whatever agreements you make up for, that we agree with him, we can get this, what it looks like to me.
Mr. Chairman, if I could make one suggestion, I mean, whatever kind of direction we get from the board today, we're gonna have to go back and work on a document, which will come back, I would presume, in November, and so at that point, there will be an opportunity to see what kind of progress has been made when it's being considered, so, so that's an option.
Good.
If the board wanted to say, let's move in this direction, but we want to see progress between now and when it comes back in November.
Okay. Good.
Good.
You have something?
Yeah.
So,
I'll ask Ms. Singer, why couldn't you go ahead and approve a site improvement plan? Didn't you do that on the Met and then on the development? You weren't here on the development of the
Right.
apartments.
The site improvement plan is actually processed through the Public Works Department.
Right.
And it has to do with everything, including, they've got to get water management district
Right.
approval on the
Right.
drainage and that sort of thing. Generally, when you get to the point where the site improvement plan has been approved, then the building official can sometimes pre-approve, because we know the location where the buildings are going
Right.
to be. He can approve a foundation permit at that point, without necessarily having the complete review
Right.
done of the vertical elements.
Right.
So yeah, we can get to that point. A little different, the Met was a threshold building, it's a 3-story building, so a lot of what was complicated about that was the truss drawings and that kind of thing.
Right.
These are all 1-story structures.
Yeah, I remember that conversation very well.
We'll be able to review those in-house. Yeah, we'll be able to review those in-house, and it shouldn't take that long to
Right.
do. So
I remember
the
that.
permit process, provided we have all the documents we need, should go pretty quickly. I think what makes the site improvement plan a little more complicated is there's a number of easements and utilities on the site that can make that a little bit more
But
complicated.
isn't that reason to start now?
In terms of site work?
Yeah, or have the approval to go, to not wait till you start, like he was saying, no, let's don't wait, let's go ahead with that, because this is just a little bit more complicated.
Right, well,
Because there's FDOT, there's so many moving parts,
yeah.
and you can't do one till you get the other. Aren't we over legislating here?
Site work as soon as the SIP is approved, but it is important to get that approval first, because like I said, there's utilities and easements that all have to be located, and we
Right.
can't have a mishap with utilities underground. So, we can talk to Public Works about that, but there may be some ability to start some of the site work before all of that is done. However, generally speaking, we do want, the SIP process shouldn't take that long, but if there are delays because of DOT or
Right.
the Water Management District or other outside agencies, we can talk about that, what they can do on site as long as the other issues have been satisfied.
Yes, but my point is that since those issues are kind of difficult, that we should be doing it now and going forward. But the other thing, we've built 2 mountains out there now. I don't know if you've noticed, it was the Twin Mountains. I'm sure 4-wheelers might be out there right now, going up and down, kind of fun. But, I mean, I don't know when that's going to, I'm joking, obviously, but sarcastically, but I don't have a clue when those are going to be. We haven't done a second pickup of debris. I mean, it might be 30 days just for that. So you see what I'm saying? Everything, we didn't predict that. We didn't predict a hurricane. But now we got 2 mountains out there that's there, and like, you couldn't do anything if you had approval right now. It's like, what are we going to do with that? Well, and what we're going to do with the second round of debris. So there's a lot of moving parts here that's just, it's just Mother Nature, it's FDOT, which is worse than Mother Nature, and so on and so forth. And so to be discussing a 90-day window is like, that's crazy, because the Met, if I remember, and I remember that was there for 4 years. Of course, we had a pandemic, so forth, but it went from a $550,000 investment to nearly a $5 million investment. We gave away another $3 million. Remember that. Don't forget that. And this deal, we're not having to give up that $2 million we was going to get for that grocery store. So from a finance perspective, This is sweet. Let's don't ruin this, because we just saved the taxpayers $2 million on this deal. On the other deal, we cost them $3 million. So I'm totally in favor of this, because this land's been vacant for a long time, and we're about as close as it gets. And I think the guy has done a wonderful job. He's got $250,000 invested. Nobody would invest that kind of money in it if they aren't sincere. But there's just a lot of moving parts. It's hard to deal with. But to sit here and discuss this for any more than 5 minutes is, to me, is ludicrous, and it's just over bureaucracy. So that's my opinion of it. I say give it 90 days and let's go. You know, what the heck? You know, it's like this is exactly what's needed there. And again, it saved taxpayers $2 million. And
He says you've already submitted your SIP, right? That's what this said, yeah. So it is already in progress. And I'm glad to hear if we can,
We're just waiting for comments from the city. And when we get comments, and I expect it to be in multiple pages, because we got comments when we did the special permit, right? It was multiple pages, and there's no problem with that. It's just that those multiple pages need to be digested, you know, transferred onto a plan. And my experience is these are engineers and traffic engineers and, you know, architectural comments. I'm sure there'll be those, and they'll need to respond. And then the city's gonna wanna look.
And you don't have any control of that.
I know. I don't.
If you did, you'd like pull that switch right now and say, you guys get it done at the end of the day or I'm firing you. That's just not how it works.
Well, if I may, Mrs. Diadio, I recognize how hard you've been working on this. And yes, this site has sat there for 2 decades or so, but that doesn't mean we should be, you know, still lollygagging and say we've got 20 more years. And I know you're not gonna take that long, but I just wanna say you are really working hard. I just sometimes feel like maybe we could speed it up just a little bit, but I understand there are a lot of moving
trying as
parts.
fast as I can.
And don't think for 1 minute that we have not ever spent more than an hour on something that could have been finished in 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, do we need a motion on this?
We do need a motion. Well, I
would
think
like
so,
to.
right? Request?
I make a motion that we extend this contract 90 days and leave it, everything else the same as it is.
If we could amend it, I would like to see the 60-day curative period removed.
I think you've now just modified it, you've taken because that's already there now, so.
That's what I'm saying.
She's saying she
I-
wants to remove it.
Yeah, I don't want to remove it.
Well, then you're basically giving a 5-month extension.
No, they already has the 60 days in there. You're giving 90 more days on the contract.
If we did, I'm just doing the math.
Yes.
If we did 30 days, if we did 90 days and then took away the 60, basically we're giving him 30 days. So, yeah, because he has an automatic, so he has till the end of the month, at the end of the year, and then a 60-day window right now. This is new to me. I'm just trying to decipher this. If we were to give him and say, okay, it's 90 days, and then we take away the 30 days, it's actually a 30-day extension. is
Oh, I
what
see
would
what
be
you're
real.
saying. I just think that I'd like to have this all resolved by the end of March. And that with a 90-day extension, that's what you're getting. But if you take away the 60-day curative period, if you leave it in there, then you really don't have everything definite until the end of May. So.
May I ask? So you have to remember that 60 days is a cure period. So what happens is that's only a cure after I'm defaulted. So that means that the CRA needs to default me. And so now we're in litigation. You know, so in other words, it's not like I have the right to extend. No, it's that you need to give me notice and then I have the right to cure. And so, but the problem with that is the right to cure is to get the city to act. It's not to get me to act. We need the city to act. You know, it's not like it's something I have to do. It's something that the city needs to give me the approval.
Mr. Chairman.
So what I'm saying is that while I understand that, you know, it's not like there's an extra 60 days I get to extend. It's that if you default me, I have 60 days to cure, which is not really an extension. It's a time to, you know, put on your boxing gloves and get attorneys to start fighting. And that's the worst thing. Why would we do that? So it's not an extension, it's a right to cure.
And so it's a different kind of thing.
And Mr. Diadio, you've been defaulted once already. So
Exactly.
you've got just a little bit of fear in your pants, right?
Sure.
All right, I know that. I've been in that position thousands of times because I've been on the other end of defaulted people. And sometimes you have to do that because they are dragging their feet. But I don't see that here.
Point of order, is there a second to the motion?
My motion?
Yes.
I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it.
I wanted the amendment, he wouldn't allow me.
Okay, so, Mr. Russo, let me ask a question, having not heard a second. Is with Mr. Beato saying that the 30 days isn't really, it's a default, he's calling it a default. So is that coming into a legal term that we're not, since we're not professionals, is that?
I mean, I don't know about the part about why we're going to be litigating at that point, but yes, it is a notice of intent to terminate the lease. It's a 60-day notice saying, hey, you got 60 days to fix this, or the city can terminate the lease.
And termination of the lease means all my investment over the last 2 years is gone, which is really not what we anticipated. We anticipated before we amended it that I could always just buy the lot. And now I can't buy the lot until I get the site improvement permit.
Okay.
So really, and with all, just with no disrespect, the city can just not give me the permit and wait till I expire. Which is, of course, not what they're gonna do, but that's the point.
Okay, so Katerina, I'm just trying to keep the meeting moving and keeping everyone in an open mind so we can wind up at a productive decision. So, do you have a suggestion? You're hearing what's going on. Do you have a suggestion of how we?
What happened last time is we had meetings, me and Mr. Rudisell, with each one of you to kind of understand where everybody was at. So if there's any changes that you'd like, then we would negotiate with Mr. Diario. I'm hearing disagreement about the timing of it. I don't know if there's any other the ideas that you'd like us to discuss. I think we're at a point where it's been vacant for so long, and I am proud of what we've done in the last 2 years. We've moved it forward, so I would hate to see that be lost. But at the same time, I want to make sure the CRA is covered, and if there's an addition asked by Mr. Diario, is there something that we can do to cover the CRA even more?
Okay.
So.
And what would that be? I think that's where we're kind of. I think.
What would protect the CRA the most? If we extend that, I mean, because you could buy the land once
I get the site improvement plan approved, I can buy the land.
But,
So, wait.
just to be clear, if he purchases the land before construction has commenced on the site, there are provisions that will record a covenant so that in the event that he doesn't meet those timeframes that are in there, the city can reacquire the property. So there are some provisions in there to provide for the timeline to continue even after the property is purchased.
Okay. So, the purchase option, if we give him 90 days, the purchase date, can we change that by 90 days? So it's a break even?
I don't understand, I'm sorry.
When's the purchase,
Well, essentially it would because.
it would automatically?
Right, because
Okay.
the purchase, his right to purchase is linked to
Okay, so-
obtaining the SIP.
So if we did the 90 days, we're automatically pushing back the purchase date by 90 days. So we have our protection in there.
Gotcha.
Okay. I'm figuring this out too. I don't know what's going on.
You're giving 90, but in my opinion, the curative date gives him the additional 60, and I'm fine. I just want to get it moving forward. I would have liked to have kept the foot on the pedal, but if, You know, if people don't want to do that, then.
Well, and I think we're trying to keep the foot on the pedal. I think we're really close to success.
And see if you get a second.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we extend the, let's see, hold on. That we extend the date to, and I prefer to use dates rather than 90 days. So what would that make it?
90 days from
March the
today.
30th? March 30th?
90 days from today was,
No, it's from the original
Oh, that's right.
deadline.
I'm
It's not from today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about March 30th. Sorry, we can't make it by your birthday.
Yeah, if it were 3 months, yes.
Yeah, so that would be March 30th to have gotten the approval of his site improvement plan? Is that what we were going for? I'm not total,
Yes, the site improvement permit.
yes. And only that, nothing else, including the design documents and construction documents? Okay. And to strike the 60-day cure period. That's my motion. Clear as mud.
I'll second it
That'd be
for
a normal-
discussion.
Okay, go ahead, second it.
I was going to second it for discussion purposes.
Okay. Is it normal to have no cure time in a contract?
Certainly can.
Have you ever written one with no cure time?
There were other provisions in here that didn't have a cure period.
That wasn't what I asked you.
Well, then, yes, I have, because it was in this contract.
Well, I've written thousands, and generally there's, is that funny?
It is.
Is it? Okay.
Okay, let's,
May I just comment, the reason that the landlord, or the developer allowed for the no cure period in the original contract is my cure was to purchase. The purchase was always there. It was not conditional. I could have bought it in 30 days. So if I didn't meet something, I could just buy the land, and that was my cure right. So when they took that away and make it conditional on something, we said we need to have a notice to cure. And that's why we got those notices to cure in there, because the earlier agreement gave me the right to buy it at any time with just 30 days notice. So if for some reason we got stuck, like right now, well, I could just buy it. And I'd take the risk because we're this far along. And so when that was removed, that I need to have the site improvement plan, otherwise I'd have just bought it. And then we'll finish the job, still have the provisions for your tenant, requirements that I need approval from you for tenants. But really, folks, we've worked 2 years on this, more than that. We're close. I mean, what happens if another 60 days goes by? How does it harm the CRA? They still own the land, right? You still have this. You still have the use of it. You're piling stuff up on it now. I mean, let me finish the job. You're going to have a beautiful shopping center for the neighborhood. Neighbors are going to be able to walk to here. Mini Rogers Plaza is going to be named on it. The pond will be an attractive park like the way your consultants want. We're going to have 2 national tenants and 3 or 4 other tenants that are going to be perfect for the neighborhood. So just let me finish, please.
Okay, there was a second, right?
There was a second.
I'll let anybody amend it if they want to amend it, but
You haven't done anything, but basically,
Mr. Chairman.
Finish.
Oh, go ahead. I didn't know you were.
well, I hadn't finished the statement, but. So the motion is, basically gives you 30 more days, and then it gives you 90 days, but with no cure, 0 cure. So you took away 60.
I mean,
Is that not true? That was your motion, you're taking
I
away?
gave till March, the end of March, to get his SIP.
Well, he's right now got to the end of February, 1st of March. So you only give 30 more days.
Okay.
That doesn't seem, that's not what he's asking for, and I don't know why you're being so anti-development here.
well, let's just, let's just keep it moving. So, to be honest, I mean, I think I see
You
what's
don't want
happening.
this shopping center?
Did I say I don't want it?
Well, I kind of,
I want to make sure it's moving in a timely manner. I mean,
I don't think we have a
20 years, so what's
20
wrong
years.
with wanting it to go along as quickly as it can? I
nothing.
didn't say I didn't want it.
But it's been 20 years since it was announced.
We have a
This man hadn't had it
second.
20
We had a
years.
motion and a second.
Right.
Can
Right.
we move on?
Okay. There's a motion and second.
You're over talking me. He's the chairman. It's all right when you do it, don't it?
No, I didn't say it was all right. And I apologize.
I didn't hear it.
Okay. You heard, yes, sir, because I'm gonna
I
call a
asked
vote.
if-
I'm gonna call a vote.
If
What?
someone would amend the motion to leave me to have my cure period that we've negotiated last year. If someone would amend the motion, that would be to my advantage, and I'd appreciate it.
I can't do it because that was my motion to begin with.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If I could, just two things I was going
Right.
to say. First of all, I just want to clarify, if there is a vote on this, that the intent is that we would prepare language and bring it back at the next meeting for the
Correct.
board to consider. Is that, so I just want to make sure that's what the expectation is of the board.
Right.
Second, I was just going to throw it out there that the board could consider a 60-day extension with a 30-day cure.
Still only given 30 days more than what he's got now.
Well,
I will amend my motion to reflect Mr. Rudicel's
And let me just
recommendation.
note, what Mr. Diadio said was, the reason that, because obviously the cure's in there now.
Right.
And what he said was, he doesn't want to get to that, because that's when we're going to be in litigation, and the lawyers we're going to be fighting if we get to a
You
cure.
default somebody, that is,
Okay.
that is an act of, in a contract, that becomes a egregious act that you're not cooperating with that person anymore. And that's what I said, I've done thousands, when you get default the person, you're putting them on notice that they're gotta get out, stop it, go. Yeah, you can cure, but things get really crazy.
Okay, so the
when you start doing
motion
that.
was amended by me. Does the
and-
seconder agree?
Sure.
Okay, to be honest, that's a pretty creative suggestion you just came up with. But I think that helps everyone. So, because I was moving towards a vote. So 60-day extension and the
30-day cure.
and a 30-day cure. Can you live with that?
If the city gives me the approval, I can. If they
Okay.
don't, there's trouble.
Okay.
And you heard Robin, she says she normally needs, 6 months to go through this process. Now, we're already up, and I think she's gonna be faster than that. But, you're making it awful tight.
I am not in control of this.
Would you
I'm
like a
trying to
slow
kind of-
yes or a fast no?
No, what I'd like is the 90 days.
Threaten him, that's
what I'd like.
I'm not threatening anybody. It's
That's
just,
exactly
it's,
I would
we're,
like,
tr-
I would like the 90 days.
I am
It's a-
tired of
it's a
being
reasonable
mansplained by-
request.
Unbelievable.
It's not because I want to malinger, it's because we have the process to go through. We have to get. the
well,
department to get
here's
back.
my thought. Here's my thought. If this motion passes, we've asked our legal counsel, our director, to get working on it, to bring it back to the November meeting. We may have a clearer picture in November as to when that site is going to be available and free of storm debris and all of that. If we don't like it at that point, we can change it then.
Okay.
And maybe you'll have response to your application for SIP. I just am trying to keep my foot on the pedal.
And I am too, by the way.
So we
And
have a
I'm
motion and a
also
second.
following the advice of our council.
So the motion and the second was for the 60-day extension, 30-day cure.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. 4-1. Okay, thank you, Peter. I think we did the best.
Motion has passed, and let me just clarify what the steps are, is that the next CRA meeting, Attorney Rudisell, and of course, I'm sure that he'll let me see it before that meeting, will go over the document and then if the document is acceptable, the CRA will give Pat the direction to sign it.
Right.
And at that meeting, maybe Robin will come back to us with and have everything, Robin, and not just Robin, because she's only the form-based code. You know, it's Public Works.
Public Works.
And if they're back to us by then, maybe we'll have additional insight. If it still is, delaying, then maybe we could talk about it again.
Again, I think that what we're trying to say is we want to keep our foot on the gas.
Correct.
We are not necessarily trying to create a hardship. And if more information becomes available at that November meeting, it will be an easier decision to make.
Okay, that makes sense to me, Councilwoman Barnaby.
Thank
and
you.
That meeting is November when?
16.
16th. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and we'll keep moving forward. I appreciate the time you've given me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Okay. All
Mr.
right.
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
On the agenda, we have three separate resolutions dealing with amendments of master plans.
Right.
Mr. Rudisil, do we need to take those individually, or can we discuss them because they're essentially the same, trying to get to the same place? I don't have a problem discussing them collectively and then voting on them individually. Is that
Yeah,
acceptable?
that would be fine.
Okay.
That would be my request.
I welcome that request.
I have a question for Mr. Riddisell. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I assume they all say the same. Section 3, recommendation of the amended Central CRA District Master Plan to City Council of the City of Bradenton. So this resolution just recommends it to the council, then the council has to vote for it. So this is not the final document. This resolution puts it before the council, and then the council has to change it.
That's correct. And it's also starts the process of sending this to the taxing authorities.
But wouldn't you have to get the council approval before you send it to taxing authority?
No.
And why is that?
Because you want their input before
Right.
the city council
Because they could say
takes action.
no, I suppose.
Right, they could object.
Yeah, okay, so you would put that in there. So it's subject to the taxing authority, which is the county,
Primarily the county.
because they're the ones that approves the TIF. Okay. And then that answers the question for, the section 4. So, yeah, I don't have any problem with recommending it to the council, because that's when the, yeah, okay.
That would be the final action, would be at the county.
I just want to make sure this isn't the final action. This will come back after county approves the resolution to move, to alter the process here, and then comes back to council for a vote. I think I'm just repeating myself.
Okay.
And I would have to consult with Mr. Rudisell. I believe we may have to advertise it to all of the taxing authorities to at least let them know, even whether they pay TIF to us or not.
Correct.
So the school board, the
Two notices, public meetings, and what were the notices? Will that
The
be like?
notices, no, that's a direct mailer to the county saying, and.
No, I meant the notices to the public. I thought you said that's what you said, you have to be noticed to the public that this.
I think we determined it would be by ordinance, right? So it would be the way that we notice an ordinance.
So
generally.
this will come back, do we have to wait for the county to approve it
No.
before so we could come back to council with an ordinance subject to the county approval?
No, the county doesn't have approval rights. We send them the notice.
Just to get it, just to notify them?
Right, they can come and object. There's a process they can initiate if they.
How long, okay, that's what I was trying to get at.
Right.
What's the objection period?
It would be within that it's a 30-day notice, so.
It's a 30-day
I believe
notice.
so.
So if we vote on this, goes to that you go ahead and process the notice to the county. They got 30 days to object, or
Right.
it just, nothing needs to happen on their part. They just automatically become, and then we set up an ordinance, have to advertise that with 2 public meetings. So this is probably somewhere out in January or something, probably.
All right.
I think we were looking at potentially December, but,
We only have 1 meeting in December.
right, but you could do the first reading of the ordinance in November if you wanted.
Well, but you wouldn't have a 30-day, okay, you're saying you're moving forward without the 30-day requirement?
You could have that first reading before the 30-day period had expired, because you have your public hearing at.
So you're saying we'd have a first reading in November, whatever, 15, 16, whatever the meeting is, and then the second reading in December?
You could.
You could. Is there any reason that we do it that quick?
Is there any reason not to?
I thought the direction was to move quickly on this item, but
Oh,
That's fine. That's fine.
I don't know.
All right, so we have Resolution CRA 22-08, amendment to the master plan of the Central CRA. That's hot right now.
Well, Mr. Chairman, so we can discuss it, I make a motion that we approve Resolution CRA 22-08.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay. Call the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Moving down to, let's just keep it going, Bradenton CRA District. Let's go straight to the resolution and get that done. So, Resolution 22-09.
I'll move for approval of Resolution CRA 22-09.
Second?
Okay, that's a motion. Any discussion? Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, we're almost there. Back to Agola
Wait a
Community.
minute.
We got one more,
Resolution
14th Street.
2210.
Oh,
I'll make a
okay.
motion to
Well, that's-
approve.
But I was just in the Bradenton CRA. I moved down from number 6 to number 7.
Oh,
And so.
Well, that was my question. Could we discuss them all and then take care of them so that we could get back to our agenda promptly?
Okay, and I'm fine if that's the way you want to do it. I was just trying to stick to the agenda. We can do that.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution CRA 22-10.
Okay, motion and second, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay.
Now, we'll move back to Angola Community Event Report. Is that what? Request for additional funding?
Yes, Miss Daphne Towns, the organizer of the event, is here. It just took place over the last weekend. I know my family, part of my family came, and they said they had a wonderful time. It was at the last meeting where Mrs. Towns mentioned that there, and it was a special meeting, so again, we couldn't take action on it. That some of the funding had fallen through and she was potentially at a loss, so she may be coming back to see if the CRA could do anything further. So I'll give the floor to Mrs. Towns to give us a report and see what the request is.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I spoke with Katarina and KK, and so we're just here to see if it's a possibility, after going through all of the line items, there were 4 categories that may be considered for funding, which is the festival booklet, Facebook ad, exhibit presentation, and clerical services, in the amount of totaling $1,625. If there's a possibility, that can be reviewed and let us know. We'll be greatly appreciate that.
Ms. Towns, I apologize, I did not make it back.
A dance for me and you.
Thank you. I definitely would.
I'd love to hear, I'd love to hear how many people showed up. I was out of town, so I couldn't come.
I would say over the period of 3 days, about 350 came through, depending on the amount of food we sold.
Right.
So the cooks were like, I'm okay, all the food is sold. So, and they had prepared for 350, and everything was sold. Yeah.
And I would like to apologize. I got very sick last week and over the weekend, and I mean, it's not COVID. I've taken plenty of COVID tests. It's not COVID. But just, I didn't want to walk through your event sounding like a tuberculosis ward.
And everybody's like, why?
Yeah, why is she here? This horrible, horrible lady.
Well, Jean, she danced for everybody from the city, so you were well represented.
Oh, good.
And
Good,
Miss
good, good.
Coachman was there.
I was there Friday, but.
And oh my God, he
My
danced up
brain
the
is
storm, and the mayor was there dancing. I'm like, wow, I see everybody in another element. So, but next year is here, and we'll try to have a good time again.
So, Ms. Siren, do you have a recommendation for us, or?
Food. They mentioned that I want to say it right,
The
conch
crack conch?
was delicious.
Yes.
KK, can I have I just want to put up the budget that was presented to us and what was already approved. So the first two categories we had mentioned to Mrs. Towns that we couldn't contribute to, those were travel expenses from the Bahamas. So the items highlighted already is what you have approved back in July. We didn't include the under facilities, equipment rental, or audiovisual. We didn't include the damage deposited because it is just a deposit. Under publicity and promotion, the two items that potentially, if you would consider to include that were not included in the original request, are the festival booklets and the Facebook ads. And again, all of this is after hard costs and receipts are presented. And maybe, and I don't know anything about them, so I would like Mrs. Towns to talk to us a little bit about each of these categories. But seeing it from what the CRA has paid in the past, those two could be potentially two items that we could add to the already approved amount. And then we weren't sure what the exhibit presentation is for $200, so that potentially could be another area depending on, again, what it is. Food we wouldn't reimburse because it's an item that they make money out of, so therefore the cost shouldn't be bear by us. And then under clerical services, again, that could be another category depending on what that cost was. So those are the four categories that I believe the CRA, depending on the explanation, that potentially we could up it. And it's about, what did you say, 1,000? It was 13 something. If it was all four.
I think it was 16. If it was all four, 1625.
What's the oak tree?
The
Fair.
clerical expenses.
The second page. Oak tree administrative expenses.
I have it right here from the administrator. The Oak Tree administration fees. We give her a stipend of about $95 a month, and she's normally working on the project for a year. It takes a good 2 years to plan a festival, but she crunched it in a year this time, so these are her expenses when she's writing the grants, going to different community meetings, and submitting applications, emails, gas, so that's.
Yeah, I just wasn't familiar with what it was. That's fine. Can you go back to the first page? The police expense, off-duty police. We didn't have any off-duty police there, did we?
We had the
Bradenton police.
chief called me the day of, so he had a shortage on police officers, so he only had police on site one of the days, and 2 of the other days, he was gonna have them patrol. They're gonna send me a receipt at the end. So they were there
bill,
2
you mean?
days patrolling,
Oh.
but only 1 day on the site.
Well, Ms. Saren, why are we charging them for police services when we don't charge other events?
Oh,
police
yes, you do.
Okay, well, I didn't ask you the question, but, Miss Katerina, we don't charge 100 and some odd police officers for the parade in this city. We don't charge them a penny, to my knowledge. That's 100 and some odd police officers.
The CRA does not contribute to the DeSoto parade or the regatta, so in other festivals and events that we have supported, police costs have been included. So the Festival of the Skeletons that the village is putting together, police is included.
But that's a question I've got, and I don't know if it's CRA or city or both, but who decides who gets charged and who doesn't get charged?
Well, right now, as I'm trying to keep this meeting moving along here, the CRA, that would be a city council decision if you're talking about the parade.
I'm talking about any festival,
and-
period.
The festival committee, don't they, when they submit their application, isn't that where that's decided how much?
Review committee that
Thank
makes
you.
that
Special
decision.
events.
And that's
They make
all, it's
decisions
all
to
on the
charge or not
application.
charge?
So when you go online or if you fill out an application, all those fees are listed out. And yes, people are responsible for paying.
Say it again? People are responsible for paying it?
The people that put on the event, the applicants are responsible for paying, for police, sanitation, all of that.
But we don't do it for regatta and,
I don't know about those events, but I do know that the event review committee, which meets once a month and reviews and vets these events with all city departments, it's all very clear. on
okay,
what
it's
they
probably a
charge.
council, council subject, not CRA, so.
It would be.
Correct.
But we had a CRA, I think, discussion in council about CRA site, so I don't know, sometimes I'm having a hard time figuring out the difference, the fine line between, what we want to purchase, we want to build City Hall on a CRA site, but that was, we discussed that during a council meeting.
In my opinion, that was the city's decision as to whether it was willing to look at that site.
But wouldn't the CRA have to forgo that
There would-
first?
Yeah, there would have to be, many.
Because
much
you've got
negotiation.
CRA that now is
But
saying,
when-
we'll give this
but when-
back to the city.
Well, sir, well,
It would require both.
well, it would require both, but I do believe that when we voted to acquire the land, it was mentioned, the land could be for the second piece of land on the 14th Street site, that it could possibly be for a City Hall future site. Didn't we say that at that time, back in April?
I can't remember. We've been in this meeting
Anyway.
so long that.
So what, Mr. Rector, what would your recommendation be for, because you're looking at some of these, you say you can justify, some of them you can't. What would your recommendation be for if the board chooses to extend some more expenses, what should that be?
I mean, I need clarification. I mean, these two are quite obvious, so those would be easy that we could approve them if you wanted. The ones on the back, I don't know if Ms. Towns, if you can, those I'm not clear what the exhibit, I don't know what the exhibit presentation is.
Presentation is the museums. We have the 3 museums that's owned by Reflections of Manatee, and they normally charge a group $300 per event to take your attendees through the museum. They are partnering with us, and they would have done it they're doing it for us for $200, but it's normally $300.
I don't know that may be an appropriate, I don't know.
Okay.
Are you saying these highlighted items are the items that we could approve?
The highlighted we have approved.
We have approved.
If you move it down a little bit, the
that-
one
that-
we're talking about is the 200.
That total is how much?
It's
1,600?
I got it.
Oh, it's more than that.
You want the last one?
Another thing, I think, are we, this after the fact, I mean, I want to help them, I really want it to be a successful event. But I am concerned about after the fact. I mean, we set a budget, we said what we would do, and I'm a little concerned about setting that precedence of going back now, but,
Well, we don't have to do that, just, we should.
pardon?
We do not have to.
I'm just asking. I just wanted to discuss that part too. I mean, I'm all, I wasn't there, but it sounds like it was a great event, and it seems like it was completely appropriate. I just,
Well, would you be interested in doing this? Saying that we would be able to give an additional funding for this event, but should you come next year and ask us for money, that amount would be removed from whatever it was you were asking for.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm
set it
just,
up for failure
I'm just
next
trying
year.
to, you know,
So, and also the motion that you all made was amount not to exceed 7,400, and that was back on September 14th. So, legally, Mr. Rudisell, and we didn't get a chance to discuss it. I know she came to the special meeting saying,
It would be a new vote, though. I mean.
No, I know, that's why I'm just,
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, you know, are the funds being spent to further a CRA objective if they're happening after the fact? I think that's the question
All right,
that's being raised. You know, off the top of my head,
that's not a bad point.
yeah, I'm not sure.
well,
I'll do whatever the board pleases.
well, I feel badly that we have community organizers that have come in and put on a festival, and it's difficult to get sponsors to give you money after the event has happened, meaning I can't see her going to any of the other sponsors that she's gone to.
Well, I think if we're going to be challenged over this event, it's not going to be for the extra money, it's going to be for the event, period. So if you're in for a pound, you're in for.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
penny, in for a pound? I mean, I'm just trying to offer suggestions on how we can keep going.
I just want to make sure that we don't set a precedence, because I feel like when you're doing an event, you've got your budget, and we're not the credit card for everyone. Okay.
That, should you come back, and we want you to come back.
Yes.
We will not repeat. Make sure you get what you want right up front.
Well,
Don't come.
it was all given right up front, but the city decided what it would give. It was all presented in the beginning, and then the city highlighted the areas that they
Right,
would
because we
give
can't
to.
be the sole source of your
No,
funding.
of course not. No, this event cost $52,000, so you're not the sole source. But thank you very much.
I
Appreciate
got a
it.
question for
we haven't moved yet.
the director, just one quick question. Anywhere under our master plan, do we have it in there for cultural events and?
under the central,
That's spelled out, so we're not gonna get in any kind of an event thing with a cultural thing like this, right? It's in there, so that statement is not true, so we could fund it all if we wanted to.
I just.
I'm not suggesting we do it, I'm just saying we could fund it 100% if we wanted to, if we thought that was what the community really wanted. So I suggest that we keep an open mind on that we're not violating we're not having a New Year's Eve party.
Yeah, I mean, what happened basically is she missed a deadline to apply for another sponsor, and so therefore, you know, I just hate anybody to be in the losing.
This
You know,
request is for next year, or what's?
this is for this year.
And how much we commit this year?
7,400.
7,500.
And then
500.
the
What are you
CVB.
requesting? What are you requesting?
16,
1625.
1,600.
An additional.
I motion to approve this at 1,625. That's not, we shouldn't waste our time.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve 1,600 and whatever she said, $25. Can I get a second?
I'll second it for discussion purposes.
Okay.
I just, my question would be, what wasn't appropriate before that's making it, I mean, are we okay? I mean, now that we've looked at it, you obviously had reasons to only do the 7,500
Only do what was
appropriate,
yellow.
yeah. And I just want to make sure that, I mean, maybe I'm putting you on the spot. and I
No,
don't
no,
mean to.
and that's, I mean, for us to, when Ms. Kaiser and I reviewed it, we felt that some of these charges, Facebook, marketing, that should fall under the person that is doing the event. At that time, when we discussed it back in August, she was gonna get money potentially from the Bahamas, from a couple of other organizations. So we didn't feel we should be, you know, the pocketbook. So therefore, since she was going to other sponsors, we put the bare, you know, that we could, that we were very comfortable with. So not that we cannot pay for these potentially promotions, I'm just, in general, I feel that that's something potentially that the event organizer pays for. Again, exhibit presentation, I didn't know what that was at that time, or clerical services. We did pay the administrative expense, which ended up being about 10% of the event. So it kind of fell in line with what we've done with other events. So that's why we were very comfortable with the 7,400 at the time. So when she came to us and mentioned that she, you know, the thing with the Bahamas fell through, as well as with another local foundation, I said, if you're comfortable to come back, and these are potentially 4 items that we could revisit. So that's kind of how the discussion took place.
Okay, I'm fine.
Okay, good. That is a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you. So we are rocking and rolling. The last thing I see is follow-up discussion on 14th Street. Do we really need that at this point?
Our agenda came before the city's agenda, so we didn't know it was going to be discussed at the city council. So it's up to you if you want to discuss anything further. But yeah.
Okay, I think we already covered that earlier today. All right, so any other discussion or new business?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Okay, that's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
That was an enthusiastic aye.
Enthusiasm is a wonderful